Grand Rapids University has been taken to the next level as we have finally upgraded our stadium, but you all will have to wait to see it because this is the best roster that we've had yet. At wide receiver, we've added 98 speed freshman Zach Wilson on one side and 78 overall JUCO Justin Stevenson in the slot, while also having a 266-pound freshman running back, so our offense should be elite, especially with the line developing nicely. And on defense, all 7 of the new starters are in a black jersey. Sophomore Kyle Stevens stands out because he took Matt Small's job, but we also have Deion Sanders' nephew at corner, Grant Sanders, and we'll see how freshman kicker Aaron Adams does. Now obviously, it's also exciting that we've upgraded our stadium, but we're starting year 7 on the road, so you all won't get to see it until Cincinnati comes to town, and I cannot believe how high our season projections are, but we're still not supposed to win the MAC, with our division somehow having the top 5 teams in the conference. Right now, the MAC is literally a top 4 conference in the game, and we're getting better, but everybody else is too, so we need to keep having good recruiting classes, and this could be our best one yet. 6'6" Luke Anderson would be the perfect Joel Johnson replacement, and we don't have any defensive team needs, but we do have some offensive ones, so I'm going after linemen like 3-star guard Tyrone Lewis, and the 6'7" quarterback out of Ohio, Kendall Sullivan, who might take a while to develop, but he could be a very good long-term project. Now, before we play through this entire season, I want to change one thing, and that'll be our offensive playbook, which will now be the spread, but our defense has to stay the same, because right now, senior rusher Joel Johnson has 38 career sacks, and if he could get 15 this year, he would break Derek Thomas's national record. That's something that we're going to want to keep an eye on, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to go after Dan Williams, but I just saw that Central Michigan is, and we cannot let them get him. We're already going to struggle with some of these other players as we are losing points so quickly, but I'm going to keep on pursuing all of these guys, and we'll see what happens. It's nice to know our team's an 83 overall, and we've gotten ranked before even stepping onto the field. I can't believe how high the expectations are for a MAC school, but hopefully we can take care of business here at Indiana, and this is our first time playing here with freshman halfback Josh Hartman taking the first handoff for 9 or 10 yards. He ran for more. If I'm remembering correctly, he is 93 trucking, which is just a crazy stat to see. Pat Smith is going to take off for 25, and I think we're going to be able to run the ball a lot better out of the spread, but we can't forget about our new receivers like freshman Zach Wilson, who just got a load of separation on that play. So far, things are looking really good for the Mastodons, and on 2nd and 12, they're sending a blitz where that man-to-man coverage is not going to stick with Zach Wilson, who spun that defender out, and the freshman has already scored his first touchdown. Originally, I wanted to play him at halfback, but that wouldn't have been a good idea, and they're actually gaining yardage here while still being up. This is a joke. Now on defense, you're going to see that David Conception's my user. We moved him over to free safety this offseason, and we forced the fumble, but the Hoosiers quickly picked it up, and on this run, we're all over it. It's not going to stop them from getting a new set of downs, though, and that was a decent run from their running back, getting another 10. So my fear is our rush defense is still going to be bad, especially since we have 7 new starters out there that all need to gel, and that's a touchdown. I bit down a bit too far, but we get to see what Zach Wilson can do on every single kickoff with his 98 speed. That was a great block there, and it's so weird that we're actually favored against Indiana, especially on the road, because I can still remember this team struggling to get their first win, and before this episode even drops, I've already posted 11 hours of content with Grand Rapids, so I just want to thank you all for all the support on the series so far, and I'm going to do my best to win a national championship or 2 or 3 with this team. I'd say we're at least a few years out from that still, but we could sneak into the playoffs, because last season our division rival Central Michigan did, and we're going to pitch it to Justin Stevenson, the JUCO wide receiver. It's 3rd and short, and it looks like Ernie Hicks is out there on the field. He used to be a wide receiver, but he spun for the first down, and with so many talented targets on this team already, I think we made the right move, but that's a rough sack to take, and I should have just kept it on the ground because it was working so well. But now it's going to be 3rd and 21, and we'll see how we can start this second quarter where I see that somebody is open, that ball's floated, and it's going to be brought in by Justin. I was a little concerned that Pat Smith put too much on it, but it ended up being okay, and I love that we have the triple option out of this playbook where Pat Smith keeps the ball, and does he have the speed to get around the edge? Not really. 3rd and 2 now, and the one problem with this playbook is there's only shotgun formations, so it could be a little difficult to run the ball sometimes, and Pat Smith is just going to step up and take the sack. Now that Hartman's back in, I can trust this team to run the ball because we have a heavier set up front, but we still have to get in on 3rd and inches, and he's not going to. Part of me really wants to go for this, but if we are, I don't like that play call, and I will be looking for Dante Moss off of the slant route, but he didn't get open until later on at least, so we had to go to Justin Stevenson, and this offense is so good. We've never had one with anywhere near this much talent, but our defense might end up holding us back, and I hope to see a little bit better out of them on this drive. We really didn't do anything there, but their running back just got tripped up, and now he's going to gash us for a big gain. So our run D's looking very questionable, but I want to see what happens when they're forced to pass, and thank you, Joel Johnson. If he didn't make a play there, that could have gotten ugly. Now it's 3rd and short, and what a hit from the freshman linebacker. This is the type of tackling and hit power that I've been wanting to recruit, and this is the first time that we've had a team press Zach Wilson, so we're going to try and bomb them over the top to him where he shows off his 98 speed. That is why you have a player like him. I wasn't sure if sophomore Pat Smith was going to be able to make that throw, but he did a pretty good job, and we had a little bit of a jet sweep in this where we're just going to dump it off to Justin, and he's going to get us 5. 3rd and 6 now. They have man-to-man coverage over there on Jeff Shelby, but the sophomore is picking up right where he left off last season, dropping easy passes and being super inconsistent. He really let me down in that situation, but I guess it's going to be all right. Their quarterback's trying to run, and Indiana took a timeout, so they must really want points before the half on our defense, which they have a decent chance of getting if none of us can make a tackle. Their running back is going to the house, and nobody's coming close to catching him. Chris Rogers has broken like 50 tackles in this game already, so we knew something like that was bound to happen, but I didn't want to see it happen before the end of the first half, and what a move from Zach. We probably don't have enough time to get into field goal range, but we'll see what Pat Smith can do with his legs. Maybe he'll change my mind as he keeps running, and I'm not sure how good of a leg Aaron Adams has, but we are going up the seam to our tight end, Allen Brown, and he got caught. I cannot believe that we actually got points out of that still, but it would have been nice if he could have taken that for 6, and this is a good season opener to gauge how good our team really is, but our defense has looked pretty rough against the Hoosiers. My fear is any big school is going to shred us on the ground, but through the air, our coverage hasn't been terrible, so that's a positive. This is going to be play action, so I need to make sure to get back there with our safety, and they're not going anywhere. Chris McNair has literally thrown 3 passes, and they're actually in this game, but he couldn't hit a target on 3rd and short, so we are getting it back with Zach Wilson here at the punt returner spot, and I'm going to try and take it to this right side, but I did not see his 98 speed in that situation, and they're all over the run. We'll give it one more go because Josh Hartman deserves to get a handoff, and that's a good one from him, where I thought that this was going to be a face mask penalty, but instead they got Jeff Shelby for holding, and all he's done in this game is hurt this team. We're finally getting Dante Moss a little involved, but he gets nowhere. So it is 3rd and long where I don't know if we're going to have anything, just maybe the deep post route. We have to try and take it since nothing else got open, and Zach Wilson literally changes everything for us. He can do it all. The fact that Pat Smith also made that throw was very impressive. Ernie Hicks gets 7, so we're in another 3rd down situation, but I know we should have that slant over the middle to Justin Stevenson, and I could not be playing any better. This is still on the hardest sliders, but it just shows as we build up this team, we're going to have a chance at actually competing, and look at that spin move. This is a great time for fullback Luis Miller to actually touch it, and I want to see Josh Hartman take it into the end zone if possible, but Pat Smith might have to keep this one, and he does, where there's 2 defenders closing in, so we're going to have to get this QB sneak, and that increases our lead to 2 possessions. To stay in this game, Indiana's going to have to do something quick against our defense, but Hill just got burnt by Moore, and he might be able to take this to the house if Conception isn't able to bring him down. JUCO cornerback Michael Hill got embarrassed, and the Hoosiers are not going away against our team. I was hoping for an easy win, but I guess that was never going to be the case, and we're going to have to earn the right result. 2nd and 10 now, man-to-man coverage across the field, so we're just going to go underneath to Zach Wilson, but he didn't look very quick there, and on 3rd down, we used the play action to cause a distraction where Jeff Shelby's actually going to hold on to the football. That's a big deal because I wasn't sure if I should have trusted him in that situation, and I'm still not sure how I feel about Ernie Hicks, who used to be a wide receiver, now playing running back, but we have bigger issues as senior Dante Moss drops the ball, and we have to get this 3rd and 7. It's kind of crazy that Pat Smith's only 2 incompletions in this game have both come whenever his teammates have dropped the ball, and just 5 yards away from getting into the end zone where we trucked multiple guys, but we need Hartman to keep his head down and do it again, and he doesn't. This could be a little risky, but I want to go to our tight end on it, and they're going to get the sack, but I really didn't want to force it into that window, so I think I made the smart decision, and we're still up by 2 possessions. Now, it would definitely be nice if we could have some resistance from our defense, but one thing I'm noticing about all 3 of our new starting cornerbacks is they can't run press man. That was our key to success last season, but we're going to have to switch things up, and that's going to be a sack. However, unfortunately, they didn't credit Joel Johnson with it, and he still needs some in this game, but that wasn't him that got it there, but instead it was senior defensive tackle Adam Montgomery, and they are floating this one perfectly to freshman Jordan Williams, who gets his first career interception. That was a great job by our defense to force our first turnover of the year. Josh Hartman's getting to the outside, and we might nickname him the Boulder because he is the largest guy I have ever seen at running back. I'm sure there's somebody out there that's weighed more than 266 pounds, but the only reason he does is he used to be a fullback, and Indiana's out of timeout, so one more first down's gonna do it, but it'll have to come on this play where Josh Hartman has some perfect blocks, and that's game. It's always nice to start the season with a win, and coming up, you all get to see our new home stadium. It's really exciting, just like the stat line from sophomore Pat Smith, and our quarterback's only 2 incompletions came when his teammates dropped the ball, so that's on them for ruining his perfect stat line. Going into week 4, we're up to number 20 in the country, and it's nice to see that Central Michigan has lost, but it was only by 4 at Clemson. I am not looking forward to competing in this division again, but I would like to invite all of these prospects to our first home game against Cincinnati. I'm expecting it to go well since we're 9 overalls better, and we have to focus on rushing for 100 yards while getting 3 sacks, so we're going to need a big game from Joel Johnson. And this is what Hulu Field now looks like. You can see how the renovations have come on in, fully taken away the view of the river, and now it's just a bowl stadium. I love how many fans we can get in here. I am surprised that it's full. And did we just drop the ball? Oh my gosh, we're actually starting this drive on the 1-yard line. And right now we're playing in the biggest stadium in the MAC in front of 45,000 fans. But I am terrified of taking a safety here, so I'm just going to try and step up with Pat Smith, but he got caught. I cannot believe that freshman Zach Wilson dropped that ball. This is not going to impress our home crowd. They are going to get it inside the 30 to start their first drive, inside the 25, and we cannot lose our home opener in our new stadium. We just finished construction on all those new stands, and they're already down to the 5 where they hand it off. Drew Flynn gets over to the running back to bring him down, but now it's 2nd and goal, and will he make the play on this? He will. Well, we could actually get them off of the field, but they faked us out, and I'll let you all get one last look at the bowl where hopefully Zach Wilson is able to catch this ball. Let's go. This is in front of 45,000 fans. Those are some good blocks, and this is what we needed out of the freshman. It's time for our offense to get things going, and in this situation, we don't have to run the football on every play, which changes everything. Zach Wilson spins that defender out, and he is making up for his mistake. We're going to have a fun 4 years with this freshman, but I do miss the Riverview being gone, and I'm sure they're going to go back to the run because both of their star players are running backs, and that's all they can seem to do. However, this is a passing formation on 2nd and 5 where their quarterback might have taken a sack if we had a spy out there, but he doesn't. And if Riley Johnson is that quick, we might be in a little bit of trouble today. That's going to be a tackle, but not before they pick up 7 yards, and we're going to get the sack with Goodwin. We needed that so bad because I don't think they're going to run on 3rd down, but they actually did, and Riley Johnson went nowhere. Now, even though we had a lot of success passing the ball on that one play, I would like to establish the run, so we're going to hand it off to Josh Hartman again, and he's going to get the first. He might not be the quickest now, but if off-season training results go his way over these next few years, he's going to be insane, and I really want to put his 93 trucking to work, so we're going to do it to this DB, but we were wrapped up very easily, and I wish our defense could do the same thing. Pat Smith gets 7, and that'll take us to the end of the first quarter. With all the recent runs, though, we should be able to successfully have a play action work in our favor, and look at that, Zach Wilson gets another 30. By the end of his career, he's going to be the best Zach Wilson to ever play football. Josh Hartman gets more, and we're so close to taking a lead on the Bearcats, but they stopped the read option pretty well, and on 3rd down, my hot read's going to be that curl route to Wilson, but it was guarded, so we went to our flat, and Ernie Hicks stepped out of bounds. It's disappointing to only get 3 points out of that drive, and let's just hope that they don't run it too well against us. Johnson is going to have to go down, but instead, he's going to scramble for a lot, and I'm going to put Joel Johnson in a contain on this play, but they ran it. 2nd and 6 now, they're going with it again, and they gashed us, but Kyle Stevens' tackle makes it 3rd and 2, and I should have had somebody set to guard the quarterback. We can learn from that, though, as we're going to turn it on, and I'm hoping that helps us, but they're just passing here, and they had the drag, but it's dropped. I really like how we're playing coverage-wise. It just has to do with stopping the run, and that's what we can do on this one. 3rd and 11 now. Surely they are not going to convert here. They had that potentially open. We're going to hit them. And back when I went to Cincinnati games, they didn't have a good kicker, so I'm not surprised. Almost 10 years later, they're still struggling in that regard, and I'm not kidding when I say a few seasons ago when they went undefeated, they had nobody that could kick. Anyway, it is now 3rd and 4, and they're pressing our receivers. That's just not going to work. Zach Wilson is too fast. It is so nice to be able to beat the press for the first time, and we are going to tear through the MAC conference if we can do that. It's so nice to be able to score that quickly. Cincinnati already finds themselves trailing by 10, and we have never had a team that is this good offensively, but our defense is giving up a big play to Ford, and they get ball to start the 3rd quarter, so we need to lock in where that should finally be a sack. Joel Johnson just needs 14 more to set an NCAA record, and I'm going to be rooting for him. On 2nd and 15, we're trying to get in pressure, and that could have been intercepted, but it wasn't, even though we had a guy in the area, and they just burnt us with that corner route. It's pretty obvious that they're setting up to score the touchdown, so that's why we need to figure out how to stop them, and they are in a rush right now, hiking the ball again, but nobody was open, so they had to get out of hurry up mode, and I'm just going to guard the running back over here, force their quarterback to maybe throw it to us, and they had somebody open in the end zone, but we at least generated pressure in time, which means all they're going to get is a field goal. With 27 seconds on the clock, I trust our offense to get even more points on the board. If Zach Wilson could have a good return, that would definitely do the trick, and we'll see what type of coverage they run. It's man-to-man, so you know that we're going to have our main guy open. He's the best weapon that this team has ever seen. We're just going to make some smart reads here. We still have all 3 of our timeouts, and I don't know what field goal range is for our freshman kicker, but we might have our running back behind their linebacker, and he catches it. If Josh Hartman can also moss players, he's going to be a cheat code, and Aaron Adams should put this one straight down the middle. So we have a 10-point lead at the half, and let's see what they do to open up the 3rd quarter. Of course, it's a handoff for 20 yards, but it's all good. We have a home crowd behind us that can actually get loud, and on 2nd and 11, it's the option which we did not commit to the right way. They're going to break a tackle, but we've still gotten them to a 3rd down, and they simply went with a run where they just got enough to move remove the chains. That was super tight, and I have to make sure that they don't get anything deep. They're gonna break that sack though. Come on. How does Joel Johnson not just wrap him up here? And that's literally crazy. Drew Flynn's gonna dive at their running back's legs. It won't matter. But eventually we knocked him out of bounds, making it 3rd and 6, where that could have been guarded a little bit nicer from me. But I didn't think Riley Johnson would actually test my user. But it's not the best, so it would make sense that he would. And you really think you're gonna run on us? I feel like we practically have their offense figured out at this point. I knew that that route was gonna try and break free, and there's no way that he tried to escape the pocket. We had a quarterback contained there and everything. This kick's gonna go in though. So it's time for us to respond back offensively, and Pat Smith is gonna pitch it to Hartman, but that was almost really bad, and we have some good blocks here where he keeps it. I'm really starting to like the runs that are in this playbook. They get some big gains, but let's focus on passing on 2nd and short where it's man-to-man coverage, and our lineman just got in the way of that completion. That's gonna go down as Pat Smith's first mistake of the day. On 3rd and 2, Jeff Shelby's able to hold on to the football, and to be honest, we're just looking to have a solid offensive drive versus the Bearcats. All we need is a field goal to go back up by 2 possessions on them, but it's now 3rd and 5. That was man-to-man coverage on that side of the field, and Jeff Shelby just destroyed 21. It's nice to see the sophomore receiver actually having some success, because we know he has made mistakes in the past, and I feel like we've done such a good job of taking control in these games. That's how we have doubled their score going into the 4th quarter, and from this point forward, I'm just going to expect them to pass the ball. So we'll pass commit and see what happens, but they go with the run instead, and that's going to go for a big gain. I really didn't think the computer would do that, but in order to have a lead on them, we've still outsmarted them, and that's a nice run. It sets up a 3rd and short where I'm not going to let the running back get open in the flat, but neither did Hill, and because the JUCO cornerback Michael Hill did that, we just have to get better at communicating. He's a new face on our defense, so I can't expect him to get stuff like that right, because that'll come with time and experience. On 3rd and 10, we're all over it, and they're not going to pick up the first. Surely on 4th down, we don't let them go anywhere, but they're going to find somebody behind our defense, and it doesn't matter that I just had the worst tackle attempt ever. They were going to score either way, and I'm going to try and get Dante Moss a touch here where he takes the jet sweep handoff, and there's a lot of green grass in front of him, but he's going to get caught. It's all good though, and I just realized that there's only a few minutes remaining, so with a few first downs, it's going to be all over, and we need this counter to work on 3rd and 1 where Hartman is going to pick it up plus a lot more. This is his biggest rush yet, and he is just continuing to go down to the 10. He's a hard guy to tackle, and that's going to pretty much seal it, because we're going to go up by 2 possessions no matter what, and look at that juke. I'm expecting him to pound his way in on 3rd down, and I cannot wait to see how the freshman's career pans out. We have a very bright future here in Grand Rapids, and with the new stadium as well, there's not really a limit for where this team can go. This should be picked off, and it is, so Jordan Williams gets another, and that's it. We're going to beat Cincinnati at home. I should just be taking quarterback kneels at this point, but it's having me do this through coach suggestions, and look at Pat Smith going for the first. Now they want us to be smart and end it. So your Mastodons have improved to 2-0, and Zach Wilson had a crazy game. That didn't even show his kick return yards though, and I have to remind you all that Pat Smith only had 1 incompletion. Josh Hartman rushed for over 100 yards, and this is just amazing. With a performance like that, it's no surprise that we got these 5 players to commit, including these linemen, and again, with stats like these, Kendall Sullivan might be a fun project. I'm also excited about Nicholas McNeil, and we now have a lead on every single one of these prospects besides Tyrone Lewis. I've just accepted that LSU's probably going to get him, so we're going to start going after some lower overall tackles, and we might need to find some more players to add to our board. Also, I have to mention that my Kentucky Wildcats took down Eastern Michigan by 1, so the only undefeated teams on our schedule right now are Northern Illinois, Western Kentucky, and Michigan. I'm feeling really confident about our chances of making the playoffs, and we better not struggle at home versus Ball State. It just became a much more important matchup because Tyrone Lewis is going to visit during it, and I had no idea he didn't come last week versus Cincinnati, but it gives us the goal of rushing for 100 yards and passing for 250. Matt Ferguson is a name I remember though, and he could give us a little bit of an issue because I remember he did at least for a half last season. We're starting out with the ball, and Pat Smith is going to keep it for 8 or 9, but I might have been able to pitch it for more, and those always make me so nervous about fumbling the football away. Right now, it makes no sense to not keep it on the ground because we are just flying down the field on the Cardinals, and we've already rushed for 40 of the 100 yards that we need, so that's good. I should probably start passing soon though. Ernie Hicks gets tackled, and on 3rd and 3, it's man-to-man coverage, so we're going to trust Dante Moss, but he didn't get open. I should have taken the curl on the other side of the field. I thought Dante would burn him, but the senior wide receiver got put in a box. But you have to throw that route with anticipation if you want it to work, and they're about to get a big rush on us as well. Anthony Hunt has taken it inside the 40, so this is not how I expected things to open up, and they might have had that deep post, which they're attempting on Kyle Stevens, but he dropped the football, and he's no different than Matt Small, who he replaced after having a good offseason. I trust our defense on 3rd down though, so it should be okay, and we left Hunt open over the middle of the field. field. So that was a dumb time to try and get a sack with Joel Johnson because I could have usered it. Here on 2nd and 8, they're deciding to go back to passing the ball, and that will go underneath the Kerr, who just shoved us off of him. But at least his first name's not Nick, because then I couldn't say his name and they've scored a touchdown. Well, we should probably go back to running the football, and they're all over Josh Hartman, so maybe we should pass, but they're getting in pressure. It was almost instant, and I assume that our offensive line would be good enough to run play action now, but we're not going to pick this up. We came kind of close, so I can already tell that this home crowd is not happy, and what a terrible punt from Smith. He had a few beautiful ones last year, but I guess they can't all be, and it would be nice if Joel Johnson could generate some pressure quick enough, because whenever they're in a hurry, they tend to make mistakes, and on 3rd down, again, our freshman corner is going to get run by, and that's going to go for a touchdown. It's 14-0. Grant Sanders, Deion Sanders' nephew, has let us down. Josh Hartman goes for 7, and I can't believe that we're going to find ourselves in this position going into the 2nd quarter. We should be able to come back, but it's been a rough day so far, and it shows that you can lose any matchup, especially in conference play. There's some teams that just surprise you. Hartman gets us the first, and here's the first mistake that they're making. They're pressing our wide receivers, so we're going to put one on a slant, one on a streak, and we all know who's the guy on the streak. We're going deep no matter what, and that is going to be missed. How is Pat Smith playing this bad? We have never seen this out of him, and we did another streak there, but I don't think it got open, so we're just going to check it down to Ernie Hicks, and this is really bad. It is now 3rd and 14. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to pick this up. We're going to throw it late, and Dante Moss brings it in, but Pat Smith already has more incompletions in this game than he has in the past 2 weeks, and I think it would be smart to let Josh Hartman help us finish off this drive, but for some reason, he struggles once we get down inside the red zone, and finally the freshman has fallen forward for 6. We've yet to lose a game ever since we added on these new stands in our stadium, and our defensive backs are going to have a very subtle celebration because they let this guy get wide open, but it's not going to count as a catch. That's a big deal. On 2nd and 10, Ferguson's just going to scramble himself, and that will get them to move the chains. So I told you all, Matt was a guy that we needed to worry about, and as I say it, he misses an easy throw. There was also a touchdown wide open there, so things could be much worse, and no way that Anthony Hunt is going to break free from there. We need Williams to catch him, and that's not going to happen. Oh my gosh. Anthony Hunt, who is wearing number 49 for whatever reason, has us trailing 21-7, and that's not good. We're going to need to have another decent drive, and that man-to-man coverage is not going to stick over on Justin Stevenson, so maybe we should just start slinging the rock. That's cover 2. Will they stick with Wilson? They will, but they can't guard both of those routes, and he's going to reel it in. It's so nice to be able to throw the ball with this team because there have been seasons where we have not been able to, but my mind is still stuck on that early interception in the game, and Pat Smith almost got out of there. I think it would be best to do another read option, but they are all over him, and I feel like we have no choice but to go for it here, but Brian Johnson was out there on the field, so with the backup in, we're just going to kick our field goal and take our 3. That would have been way too much pressure for Brian Johnson's first snap of the season, and we're going to hold them up from the marker, so they're going to need a bit more to move the chains, and that was such a good blitz, but Matt Ferguson was able to release the ball while getting annihilated. I want him to graduate so bad. I can't stick with all of these routes, so I had to pick one, and you know it's bad when they also get ball to start the 3rd quarter. That's another big gain from 85. Come on. I have to stop running press man-to-man, but I'm so used to doing it from last year, and it's my go-to defense whenever it's a short yard situation like that. I feel like if you don't press them, they're just going to take something underneath, and this could be picked off, but Grant Sanders drops the ball, and the freshman has a lot of learning to do. We are going to make the tackle hopefully eventually, but it took longer than I would have liked, and on 3rd and 2, I am stuck, so they are going to drop it. That is huge because it's still a 2-possession game, and it also gives us 28 seconds to find a way to hopefully get points before the half, where Zach Wilson has a good return and nobody is going to catch him. He is going to break free. That is exactly what we needed. We might be getting bailed out, but it's about time that happens on this file because we've been through it all, and it just got a lot closer going into the 3rd quarter. I'm pretty sure they've scored on all their drives though, and that could have been no different. We tried to press him and it's picked off. To be honest, I'm not sure if he actually got this foot in, so we're running up to the line. I am spamming X, and we have gotten the playoff. They could not challenge it, and now we can look back at it where you will see that Michael Hill barely did. The JUCO cornerback just changed everything for us though, and all of these new recruits have made such a difference as Zach Wilson is off to the races. We have somehow tied it up at 24, and let's see how the Cardinals respond back. Brad Jones literally couldn't have played that one any better, and I tried to stick with Kerr, but even if we couldn't get the pick, it's all good because it's 3rd and long, and that's a sack. You know it's Joel Johnson that's on the end of it, and Zach Wilson has a chance to have a kick return again because he catches this one at midfield. He got a couple good blocks, and I don't think he's going to be able to go the distance on them, but he set us up very nicely for this drive where where we're going to take our drag to Jeff Shelby and let Josh Hartman go back to work on this defense where he gets in. We have scored 21 straight on the Cardinals, and that turnaround was needed after our slow start. On this play, they're just going to go down in their flat, and that gets them 9. But we're playing with so much confidence compared to earlier on, and that's a nice run from them as they're going to break another tackle. Whenever you have players backed up, that's kind of the stuff that you can expect. We'll see if we're able to force an interception, and I'm going to play the run with Hill where they just handed it off to Banks, so they're going to get the first down. I thought it was going to be an option keeper, but it wasn't, and they have the corner route to the 5, which means that we have got to step up soon, and that's not happening. Also, that's a perfect example of me not clicking on, and then the computer gets confused and doesn't make the tackle, so it is better if I try to do it myself, but I am struggling with that obviously still, and look at that wheel route from Josh Hartman going for a huge gain. I don't know how the defenders missed all 266 pounds of him, but he just snuck right by like he was a little kid. And now it's 3rd and 8 where Dante Moss ran the route that I wanted to take, but we threw a pick on it earlier on, so I've decided to scramble with Smith instead, and that spin move might go for a touchdown. What a decision. Pat Smith is the quarterback that we have always needed, and I love Ryan Pace, but he was so slow and would have never done anything like that. Here on 2nd and 5, we need to get in pressure, and Joel Johnson almost got the sack, but they get it out, and it's almost picked. Way too many almosts on that play, but at least Grant Sanders stuck with his man for once, and there's just way too many routes to guard in this situation. It's so weird that we have a harder time versus MAC schools than the Power 5 schools that were on our schedule, but like I said, I think our conference is really improving, and I know in the future you all will probably want us to join a new one, but I'm not sure if we're going to have to. We need a tackle here though, and nobody did for a while. Anyway, a conference change wouldn't happen until Grand Rapids won at least one championship, and that's a touchdown. So it's all tied up at 38, and I think we have a long 4th quarter ahead of us. This wide receiver screen worked earlier in the game though, so now we're going to go to Dante Moss on it, and that's another good one. I have to make sure that I continue to mix those in since they've been working out, and Pat Smith had an open lane, but he just got knocked over, and that messed up his trajectory, but I think we're fine. Hartman seems to be doing well, and it's probably best to not do any spin moves with him since he's a power back, but that changes whenever Ernie Hicks gets into the game, and this goes for a few more. I would love if we could just keep it on the ground to reach the end zone, which we do, and after that rough first quarter, our offense has really turned things around. I would like to see some more sacks out of Joel Johnson though, but they run it, and I hope this is a pass on 3rd and 1 where it's an RPO and we just couldn't get over to it. I am running a little bit of press man-to-man here, so it's a good thing that that wasn't a deep pass, because I have to try to send in blitzes at some point, and we make the tackle, forcing them to a 3rd and inches where they have their running back in the flat, and I just didn't stick with him well enough. Normally that route just sits on a hitch, but he had different ideas, and we are all over that tight end, making it 2nd and 6 where they just do a halfback draw, and they're going to gash us for 10. It seems like they're trying to run out all of the clock before they end up reaching the end zone where they're coming close, and no way that they're able to get out of that. A minute left on the clock still. This is a wide receiver screen that we should have stopped from the start, but they've taken a timeout, which makes no sense, and I'm no longer that concerned if they get into the end zone, but Grant Sanders clutches up, he gets the pick, and this makes up for all of the trash that we've talked about him. The freshman cornerback came to play, and as long as we don't take a safety, we should be good, but that was almost very close. Our lineman pushed him into Pat Smith, and it's just so refreshing that we have come out on top, where we have to run the ball one more time, and this first down will do it. I gotta say, our offense looks really good, and Pat Smith bounced back from that interception, because even though he passed for 1 touchdown, he rushed for 2 more and over 100 yards, which was needed since our receivers didn't show up, besides Zach Wilson, who was very effective, having over 200 return yards. I also just noticed that Central Michigan lost to Cincinnati, so after having a playoff run last year, they've been broken, and we're the only undefeated team left in our division. I never thought that Grand Rapids would be putting the MAC on their back, but maybe our conference isn't as good as it seemed as it was going into the season. The visit week for Tyrone Lewis worked out too, because we now have a lead over LSU, and some of these other prospects are going to come versus Michigan State, but I'm going to go ahead and be on the lookout for some other talent, with Sean Harvey only going up to a 70, Bobby Smith to a 67, Dan Griffin to a 73, and John Davis to a 78. His stats would make for an amazing quarterback, so we're going for the 4-star out of Ohio, and I cannot believe it, but I found a +10 gym in John Brown. Now it's time to host Michigan State, and not only are they dealing with some injuries, but we're so much better than them on paper. They've had so many bad seasons in a row that they're starting to fall off, and we get to host this one. I'm also pretty sure they no longer have Dallas Hicks, which is a miracle, but who is this guy and why is he so quick from the start? We're missing that tackle, and Kyle Stevens is going to have to bring him down at his ankles. But if you all know our history of playing versus Michigan State, you all would know that they always have a running back that shreds us, and Flowers is taking it to the crib. Joseph Flowers was their quarterback last year when we beat them, and I don't care that they're 1-3. I don't care that they're a 75 overall. They're not going to play like it, especially against us. Pat Smith cannot make any mistakes, and on our opening play, we're just going to keep it with him on the option. Maybe we'll pitch it last second, but that was a terrible idea. He's so fast that there was no reason to even have Josh Hartman there, and they don't have a flat on that side of of the field, so we're hitting Allen Brown, who's been pretty quiet in his junior year so far, but he was awesome as a sophomore. And before the play, I can already tell that they're sending a blitz, so we were ready to get it out quick. Ernie Hicks is in at running back, and even though his overall is high, he's not been the best here, so maybe I should have kept him at wide receiver, but I just felt like we didn't need him there, and he can make catches out of the backfield. The senior's never been a star, but he is very consistent, and Pat Smith is going to keep this handoff to take it to the house. So that's what you love to see, getting a response on the Spartans, and we just have to stop their run. I think they had a fluky first drive. I doubt they're going to move down the field like that again on us. They're going for the deep shot in the double coverage where that ball needed to be intercepted, but we drop a ton of those, and with a halfback draw, they're going to go for 7 or 8. 3rd and 3 now. We shot the gap with Drew Flynn, and the senior made a huge tackle. Now Zach Wilson needs to get it something good, but he fumbled the ball, and now he's going to pick it up. He stumbled over as well. Can he outrun these players? I cannot believe he dropped it first, but he makes up for it anyway. And the freshman still has a ton of time to develop. He is going to make those mistakes. We have to throw this away. To be honest, I should have just kept it on the ground. I don't know what I was doing trying to switch it up by passing on 1st down instead of running, but we might be all right because it's now 3rd down, and this running back wheel has worked in the past, but we should be smart, take our slant, and Justin Stevenson made up for everything. With his 50 receiving yards on those 2 plays, it's like the sack didn't happen, and here on 2nd down, we're going to keep it, but Pat Smith's locked up. They've been determined to stop him, and I'm going to take this comeback route, but they're all over it. So that's his first incompletion, and we're about to find out if Aaron Adams can hit from this far out where it is short. It said we could hit from there, but at least they're committing a false start, so their drive starting as a 1st and 15, and they just threw it away instantly. I don't know what Michigan State is doing right now, but I'm not going to complain, and I thought we had the interception, but we didn't get an animation, and this handoff is going to take them for another 9. You already know that this is going to be tight, and that's how rivalries are, but we've made it a real one by beating them last season, and I knew that delay route is something they'd want to take, but they didn't let Dion Hughes catch the ball. The freshman middle linebacker was literally all over it. Let's see what they go with on 3rd and inches, and it's just a run. Let's force a fumble, and that really should be. Joseph Flowers is a quarterback, so I don't know how he was able to hang on to it, but it's still super early, so there's no reason to get worked up. And on 3rd and short, they actually didn't run it. They have somebody open, but not now. Kyle Stevens hits it, and we could get them off the field here where it's a halfback draw, and come on, boys. I feel like we should stop the draws, but we never do. They actually work with these sliders, and it's interesting how easy it is to play defense on normal Heisman compared to what we're using. Now they're inside our red zone, but they are passing, and I knew that they were going there, so that's why Matt Small lost his starting job, because he can't make plays like that. And on 1st and goal, the Michigan State offensive line just parted our defense like the Red Sea. That's the one thing I'm noticing as a smaller program, is we're still not winning those battles up front. We did get this one off to Wilson though, and we know that he has the jets. Can he turn them on to get around these defenders? And he almost did. I think in his few years with the program, Zach Wilson's going to do a lot. I can't say for, because he might end up graduating early if he's actually this dominant, and Hartman is doing awesome. He has never looked that quick before, and we have our tight end over the top, but I floated it a bit too much, so I can't expect Allen Brown to catch it, and I'm not sure if touch passes ever work on this game. You always got to do a bullet pass. Pat Smith is going to take off, so running the football is clearly what we need to be doing, and there's some shotgun formations that are really good in this playbook. Also, because I've been kicking every single extra point, our freshman has yet to miss one, and with 2 minutes remaining in the first half, it is all tied up at 14, but I'd love to find a way to get them off the field, and that's going to go for at least 15 yards. I don't even know what to do, because I know that Terry Smith is about to run through our entire defense, and I can set up to stop the pass, which can work in this situation, but if I don't guess correctly, we're cooked, and at least we knew that they were probably going to go back to it on this down, so we can take a timeout, and this is where we can make a difference. Also, I have to say, our stadium looks fantastic with all these stands, and the fact that we can house over 45,000 is just crazy. Hartman's going to catch this, and he trucked a guy. He put him on the ground. He laid him out, so it's got me all fired up, and we're just going to go with our hitch route over to Shelby. I saw Justin Stevenson get open in the middle of the defense on the last one, so I tried to feed it to him here, and he made the catch, even if he probably shouldn't have come down with this football. And the JUCO's been doing well out of the slot for us, while Dante Moss isn't able to get open, so we're just going to have to run with Pat Smith inside the 10-yard line. We really need to go down inbounds one time so the clock can run before the half, because I don't want to leave any to Michigan State, and the C route got open with Wilson. Zach did something that Dante Moss hasn't been able to do all year, and the freshman is showing our senior how to run routes. Since it's happened before, I do have a fear that they're going to rush for a touchdown on this final play, and they're breaking multiple, but at least we were able to stop them, and Joel Johnson tried to get in pressure before they got the throw off, but he couldn't, and we are not getting the pick. Well, I will definitely take 21-14 at the half, because we're also getting the ball, and it seems like we've controlled most of this game really well. Wilson doesn't go anywhere, but I'm sure he'll help us move down the field, and the counter run got boxed, which means it's time to resort to passing, and I'm not sure if they're going to guard this right, but they did, so it's now 3rd and 13. This is man-to-man coverage, and we are going to trust Zach Wilson to run to the marker, but I should have just taken the out route on the right side of the field, because I'm sure that it got open. It normally does versus man-to-man, and this punt gets them inside the 20 at least. We know that the run is probably coming, so we can get over to it with Drew Flynn, and I've been happy with his replacement Dion Hughes so far, but not as happy as I am with the rest of our defense for holding them, and there's no way that that slant gets them a first. That is so frustrating. We had them held, and this is being thrown away, and I get so nervous on those third downs because I know something bad's probably going to happen, but Drew Flynn's a great example of what happens when you finally get your tackling stat up, and we just need other players on our defense to do the same. It's going to be hard to do, but I'm going to try and stay in zone coverage the rest of this drive. I don't know how some of those blocks aren't a flag, but we forced a 3rd and 2 where they decided to run the ball, and the fact that they're punting here shows how big of wussies they really are. This is just going to bounce into the back of the end zone, and it's been a very tight game stat-wise, so I'd love if we could pull away, and this handoff to Josh Hartman is a decent start. 2nd and 6 now. It looks like man-to-man coverage, so we'll go over to Dante, and after he had a really good freshman year, he's just been disappointing, but we have to remember that he started at like a 67 overall, which at the time was really good for us, and Josh Hartman is still up and going to midfield. I think I need to convert fullbacks to halfbacks more often. This is awesome, and he's like DeMarcus Perkins if DeMarcus Perkins was actually strong. We're going to try and go deep because they pressed Wilson, and Zach Wilson ended the 3rd quarter in the best way possible. We've gone up 28-14, and they can no longer rely on their rushing attack consistently, or maybe they can. They're not passing, but they should be because there's only 6 minutes left, and are you serious? They got that pitch off in time. David Concepcion, you're going to have to make a tackle on 88, and run committing was not even worth it. When we don't do it, we get stops like that, and on 2nd and 13, I'm ready for them to throw at our user, but they hit Carter, and how do they consistently find the space in our zones? That was a crazy 3rd down stop though, so they're going to have to do something on 4th and 4 where they shed the sack, and they got it out in time, which is caught, and he reeled it in with one hand, but I think it's a penalty because somehow they committed offensive PI, and there's no way that the computer bails them out of this twice. It's now 4th and 14, and are you serious right now? Shaw was able to catch it and truck 3 players. He's going to go all the way to the 1. It's those wheel routes that always get you, and we're not going to stop them, even though we literally had a player with hands on Joseph Flowers. So we're getting it back with about 4 minutes left, and this is where our rushing attack could really go crazy. That is a perfect pitch to Josh Hartman, who gets like 25, and the second we get into field goal range or make them burn all their timeouts, this one's going to be over, so I'm hoping for the best, and Ernie Hicks saw a big gap up the middle, and I think the former wide receiver would be perfect on a halfback screen where he comes away with the football, and that's going to go for the first. We just have to move the chains one more time, and we'll be all right. That was kind of risky to pitch it to Dante Moss, but I trust him, and he is going to make a move. The Spartans somehow still have timeouts left, but we should end up being okay. Pat Smith spun that defender out. Look at him. He is still going. How is he up, and is he going to reach the end zone? After all the broken tackles we've gone through, I can't believe that now we're the ones breaking tackles ourselves. And can we please just reach the end zone and get in? Thank you, Josh Hartman, for finally doing your job. I know we're giving Michigan State a chance by doing that, but it's not a good one, and I don't want to be cute. I just want to get the win, finish this thing off, and we're leaving their running back open. I've been trying different things out defensively, and Joel Johnson gets the sack, so there's something that finally works, and it's taken me all season to have a successful rush, but I'm slowly figuring it out, so hopefully there's more of those to come, and they just ran the ball on 4th and 18. Michigan State's given up, so we probably should too, and we've now beaten our rivals in back-to-back seasons. Our fans seem to be enjoying the new seats in our stadium too, and look at that stat line from Pat Smith. So few incompletions, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. He also rushed for a bit along with Josh Hartman having 88 yards, and this is just great. Our success has led to more commits coming in, and if the season ended right now, we would be in the 12-team playoffs. I don't know why, since we haven't really beaten anybody good, but we have a chance to, as we're about to face 4-1 Northern Illinois, and last week their running back had 5 touchdowns. Now with recruiting, we're obviously still going after these 4 main guys, but in the mix of the new prospects, I've found somebody else I really like, and that's Jay Atkins, who we're putting 700 points on. That's another guy that could be a crazy halfback, and I know the Huskies are only a 72 overall, but we're playing on the road and it's raining, so this is probably going to be a slow-paced, run-heavy game, and those always could go either way. The plan is to feed Josh Hartman, so we need to get him going early, and he already is, but after just 2 plays, he's already out, so Pat Smith keeps this one, and he's going to shed that tackle because it's wet, but he also dropped the football, and it's a good thing the refs are challenging it, where it's pretty obvious that his knee was down first, so it's no surprise that we have it back, and he's going to take this one for at least 5. If the ref wouldn't have reversed that challenge, I would have been very upset, but we're going to keep it on the option and then pitch it over to Stevenson, who's going to get his first rushing touchdown. So there's Justin Stevenson always making the right play, and that was a solid first drive, but it was also quick. My fear comes on defense though, when we have to stop Jonathan Neal, who had 5 touchdowns in his last performance, and the Huskies always have a good running back. First it was Lawrence McLaughlin, and now it's this guy, but it's all good. We are shooting through that gap, so I'm just going to trust that eventually we are going to hold them, and that run to the outside's going nowhere. 3rd and 8's probably right where we want them. I think I'm going to have to stick with these slants. We have zones guarding all of that. And how did he get so open? We had 2 guys on him. I have to get an explanation from the freshman. I don't know what they're thinking just leaving him like that. I get that they're young, but that's so annoying. There was nobody else that they should have been guarding. And after moving the chains, another handoff to Jonathan Neal is going to do the same thing again. After Joel Johnson graduates, I'm definitely going to change up our defense because right now it just can't stop the run. But I want him to have a shot at breaking Derek Thomas's NCAA record, so no changes yet. Eventually, we have to figure things out, and I think this handoff to Zach Wilson could be lethal if he could have just gotten a couple of blocks. But he didn't, so it's now 3rd and 2, and Hartman's always getting that. We're also going to get Arnie Hicks a touch where he is going to take this handoff, and he has some great ones in front of him. Look at the former wide receiver go. He is not just good at catching, but I thought he was a little bit quicker than that, and he is still in the game. He has set up Josh Hartman to take his touchdown and get into the end zone, but he did not read his block right there. So it is 3rd and 5 where I don't want to take any of that, and we're just going back to him, and he was wide open. I don't understand why they wouldn't guard our running back, but I'm not going to complain about it because our offense looks so good, and that's going for like 2. 2nd and 7 now. They're dropping back and throwing it away, making it a 3rd and long where I'm just going to stick with the crosser, but I didn't think about guarding their dump off, and he was left open too. One thing I'm learning about this game is there's always something that you could have taken. I just missed that tackle trying to shoot up the hole quicker, and Kyle Stevens tripped him up, but I need to put somebody thick at safety so I don't miss stuff like that, and this should be picked, but Grant Sanders did not hang on. We all know that would have been a house call as well, changing everything, but at least we're going to get over to Cade and push him out of bounds, which means we could get them off the field. We just have to guard the slant, and I don't know why we didn't get an animation to pick it. I could have sworn that I was right there, but it's okay. There's no blocks over here. Zach Wilson's still going to make something out of nothing, and it is time to get the rushing attack going again. Pat Smith keeps it off of the option. He's going to pitch it, and that was bad. If Justin Stevenson didn't have good hands, we could have been in a lot of trouble. Pat Smith just got tripped up, but it's not going to matter. He jukes to the outside, and this might be his longest run of his career. 58 yards to the house for the sophomore quarterback, and we just keep trading touchdowns back and forth. It'll probably come down to who can figure out how to stop who first, and I'm taking our defense in that because we have had chances. I want to force them into a bad read, and this is it where David Concepcion dropped it. I can't even act surprised, but it's going to be okay because senior Drew Flynn just laid the hammer on this guy. He had zero chance of picking up that first down when our senior linebacker is going to hit like that. Zach Wilson's going to hopefully get a big return here, but they're keeping up with him decently, so we're just going to go back to handing it off to Josh Hartman, and knowing that we're going to have him for so long just makes me happy because he's already good. It's also a good thing that our school can afford to keep players around with NIL because of the Hulu TV deal. Pat Smith's going to take this one for a lot, and all the recognition these guys gets really helps out our program. That's a huge truck from Hartman, and he is running angry today. On 2nd down, we decided to pass, but Pat Smith actually scrambled, and I understand this play might look weird, but I'm going to trust it. I feel like we're going to fake them out. We get it over to Shelby, and look at that. Trying new things always pays off. We're about to go up by 14 points before the half, but we're going to run some time down, and these halfback screens are normally money as long as we don't use them too much, get a couple good blocks, and that's all we need. 28-14 is literally perfect because even if we don't get ball to start the second half, they haven't stopped our offense once, so unless we make a mistake, we should always be in control of this game, and that's a nice hit from Stevens. He swarmed to the ball, making it 3rd and 2, and we got to stop the option. We're all over it, so there's a good user play from me finally, and we've got an opportunity to pretty much put this one out of reach. All it takes is 1 or 2 more big plays, and I don't know if we should keep this with Pat Smith or pitch it, but you know that Zach Wilson is going to be there to take it to the house, and how is somebody actually keeping up with him right now? They must be his biggest hater because he's not going to get credit for the touchdown, and I'm going to let Josh Hartman run that back one more time because there's zero reason that he should have ever gotten stopped there. Here on 1st and 10, it is a run, and they did pitch it, but it's not going to matter because we have found our groove, and there's no way that they're going to snap us out of it. I don't know what they're going to have here. That was almost picked, and if I was a second quicker, Dion Hughes would have made the play, but I ran commit, and we get the sack. That's the second drive the freshman linebacker stopped, and Jay Green's going to be a great player for a long time. I want to say this is exciting because if we continue to go up by more points, we're going to have a chance to put our backups in and see what the future of the program holds, but all of our starters are pretty much the future. So what we're really going to see is all the guys that haven't been able to make it the better we've gotten, and look at Pat Smith. Just get one block here. Come on. He really wanted that touchdown, but instead it's probably going to go to Josh Hartman, and that's what's going to happen. They're saying he didn't cross the line though, and I don't know how, but it's all going to work out in the end, and I can't believe that Northern Illinois hasn't put up a better fight, but Jonathan Neal is open, and I don't know why I tried to hit stick him there. We could have knocked him out of bounds, but he's going to take it to the crib because that was a bad tackle attempt. This is a ton of points to be scored in a game, especially when we haven't passed the ball that much, but our rushing attack has been very dominant on the ground, and who would have thought that Pat Smith would be our leading rusher over 100 yards. 2 clock's going to go on in the the fourth quarter, so that way we can make sure that this game stays out of reach for the Huskies, and Pat Smith made the right move because I wanted to pitch it, but it would have ended very badly, and it's just nice to see our offensive line blocking this well. We also have to keep in mind that we got a new offensive coordinator, and with him being a level 25, everybody gets a ton of stat boost, making them play better, so our offense should be able to keep us in any game versus any team, which will be nice because last year there were a couple matchups where it needed to be a lot better, and Pat Smith gets the edge, which is going to take him to the crib. We've put up 49 points in a game, and they just keep making things worse for themselves. Somehow through all of this though, Joel Johnson doesn't have a single sack, and I'd say he's had a very disappointing season for us. They've given up since they're not even trying to pass the ball, and on 3rd and 10, I'm trying to get a sack with him, but they held him up well. We're going to make the tackle, and just a few more runs will do it. Brian Johnson's actually out there taking a snap for the first time, and one of the comments said I should have made the senior transfer to get playing time somewhere else, but you all don't realize he got a bag to stay at Grand Rapids because we need him in case Pat Smith goes down like it happened last season, and that's the final play of the game. All of our stat lines are going to look crazy, but it makes sense because we won by 28 points, and the only one isn't is Pat Smith's passing stats because it all came on the ground instead. We had 39 rushes for 428 yards, and that level of domination is exactly what we need before we play at Central Michigan. As of recently, we all know that they've had our number, but now we're a top 10 team, and they're sitting all the way at the bottom of our division. They lost on the road at Akron too, so this shows that overall means nothing, and let's see what happens in the other Michigan MAC rivalry game. It would be awesome if Eastern could take down Western, but that was always going to be a long shot as the Broncos are much better than the Eagles, winning by 15, and yes, Anthony Browning is still in college. Before our matchup, this is what the standings look like, and on paper, Central's still really good, especially offensively, so I'm a bit worried. Last year, this team got off to a 31-0 head start on us, so this season, our goal is to not fumble it away doing anything stupid and control the clock against them. One of the issues we ran into is they were really good at stopping the run, but I'm determined we can do it on them this season, and with this pitch to Dante Moss, I'm hoping he's able to reach the marker as he's going to break that tackle getting to the 42. Our defense is no longer the only defense that can't make consistent tackles, and if we have to run it all game like the last one, I am not going to worry about it at all, but they've stopped Pat Smith, so it's 3rd and 7, and I know our flat's open, but the question is, will Allen Brown get it? And he came close. That obviously means we should go for it in this situation, and you know that we have to have a play to Wilson because that's who we can trust, and the counter gets blown up. I can already tell, even at 1 and 4, this is going to be a hard one for us to pull away, and Pat Smith gets 8, and I'm actually happy to see Ernie Hicks out there for this halfback screen because I think he does a great job when it comes to catching these, but the blocks that we needed just didn't show up, and this is a 41-yarder, so Aaron Adams better not miss it, which he doesn't. Now, this is where things might get tricky. I don't know if our defense has what it takes to stop their offense consistently, but they've struggled in their last 4 games, and you know what? I guarantee because they made the playoffs last year, their head coach got poached by a bigger school. Then they would have to bring a new guy in, and his playbook probably doesn't work out as well for them, but it is against us because so far we have not stopped the run very well, and look at this guy too. Both of their star players are running backs, and we always know that that's a bad thing. Joel Johnson couldn't get the sack, but we were still able to do it with Drew Flynn, and now Blake Butler is going to be forced to pass, but instead they hand it off, which is somehow working for another first down. How is he still going? I feel like we have no choice but to run commit, and of course that's when they decide to pass, whenever we committed down to the run. So Joel White, a name that we've never seen before, was left open for a touchdown, but evidently they didn't do good in recruiting when it came to getting a kicker because they've missed their extra point, and that could come back to bite them, so we like to see stuff like that, but this is a drive that can't end in a field goal like the last one, and it's already 3rd and 3. Last year we had a drop on a play like this, so I'm going to hope that doesn't happen here, but it is always Jeff Shelby, and I'm just speechless at this point. Maybe we'll get a good punt. I feel like we haven't punted that much this year, and we can't even do that right. I have switched to a 3-3-5 defense, but it's not working at stopping the run, so maybe we'll go out of the nickel and back to the 3-4, where there are so many guys over here in the box, and we are going to get over to rough it. Maybe that's going to be something that works, and I see that their running back's open, but I'm not worried. But it's 3rd and 6, they have to pass, and we're going to pick it off with Grant Sanders. He is Deion Sanders' nephew, and that is why he was able to make a play like that. He's had a rough season, but it's nice to see him have success. And man, that just changed everything for us. I think we have found our defensive formation, and now they're trying to pass, but they know that nothing's getting open. So all we have to do is add in a quarterback spy and shoot that gap. Freshman Grant Sanders really just changed everything for us, and we're not going to pick it, but Drew Flynn still got over to the ball to make a tackle, and this is a real opportunity for us to pull away, which is needed because they still have more yards than us, so you could say that they're playing better, and I just hope that we can get them to bite a couple of times on this one, which we did. Hartman takes the handoff. We need a couple of blocks, and he's going to get them. All right, come on, Wilson. Just stop 42. He was so happy he didn't take care of business there, but it's going to be okay. And I have decided to call a timeout because Ernie Hicks isn't really warmed up, and I wanted Hartman back out there, but Pat Smith's going to take it in anyway, and he was a great distraction. Everything just flipped from 3-6 to 17-6, and you can see momentum building up on the sidelines. I feel like once Central Michigan is forced to pass the ball, we're back in business, and Blake Butler doesn't know what to do. In his 4-year career, all he has ever done is just hand off the football or take an easy check down like that. But I think the refs are going to bring it back anyway. And how is James Carter still in college? If you don't recognize that name, I don't know how, because he always torches us, and that's going nowhere. So I'm going to keep a close eye on James Carter on 3rd down. I knew he'd probably come over with the slant, but the zones I put out there just don't want to do their job, because I had one right over there, and James Carter is going to toast Sanders for a touchdown. I cannot believe that that man just reached the end zone. At this rate, he's already used up his COVID year. There's just no chance that he's going to be in college next season again, and that's a good return from Wilson, setting us up perfectly to start driving down the field with 54 seconds remaining, and it looks like Dante Moss successfully learned how to run a C route from Zach Wilson. If they're not going to press us either, we're going to try and go with the wide receiver screen over to him, and time's ticking off the clock pretty quick, so we should probably start to do something a little more effective than that, with it now being 3rd and 11, and they're going to get the sack, I think. They're saying we don't even have a leg to kick from here, so I'm going to call a timeout, and we'll see what happens with the final Hail Mary. Why do they not have somebody back there? Are you serious? Zach Wilson is the greatest receiver ever, and why would they not play deep coverage in that situation? They just gave us a 13-point lead at the half, so now they feel like they have to come out passing the ball, where Blake Butler's probably just going to scramble, but we got to him before he could do that, and I don't know what Central Michigan's going to do versus us in the second half, but I highly doubt it's going to be anything too impressive, because all the momentum swung in our favor, and let's just make this tackle. Do not tell me that they actually got the first. This is the stuff that I have to deal with, and now it's back to trying to stop the run, so that's why any team on our schedule could definitely beat us. And how is Ruffin still up? I know he's a 90 overall halfback, but we're getting in that hole so quick, and all we had to do to stop him was penetrate it a little bit better. I stuck with their drag, and okay, this should have been picked. There was way too much air under that ball for Grant Sanders not to react, but it's okay, because we sensed that they wanted to hand it off, and there's no way that they think he's scrambling. Come on, boys, force the fumble. That's what I like to see. Drew Flynn picks it up, and Blake Butler looks so sad, but I don't care. That bum has beaten us for the past 2 seasons, and I don't take it lightly when we lose to our rivals. It hurts. I'm so glad that he's a senior as well, so we're never going to have to see him again, and we control the game right now, so the only way to screw this up is if we make a mistake, so we're going to be very smart on this drive, and the option continues to work for us with Pat Smith getting even more. He might be too tired for this quarterback run play, but it worked last week, and I'm pretty sure if we just hit them with one play action, they should bite at everything. We have an open tight end. Allen Brown is going, and he is still up. It's about time that we go up by 3 possessions on them, but I think they're terrified of seeing that happen, and let's just pitch it over to Hartman where there's a flag on the play. I don't know who this is on, but apparently it's on them, and I had to take a timeout because the play clock almost hit 0, but it's going to be all right. It shouldn't affect anything because we have a big lead with about a quarter remaining, and on 2nd and 10, it's another handoff, which is going to go for a nice sizable gain if no one brings him down, but we force another fumble. Their running back's not perfect. It felt like he was, so that's nice to see, and Pat Smith's going to keep this handoff, which is going to result in another touchdown. We're running up the score. After what happened last year, I don't feel bad about it at all either. We're going to get the hit on Carter, and Central Michigan's probably not making a bowl. That is literally crazy how much of a difference a head coach can make, though, because last season this team was a playoff one with the same guys, and now without their coach, they are 1-5. They are struggling, and could this be another sack from Joel Johnson? He just picked up 2 on this drive, and some of the starts we get on these because of our kick return team is just amazing. In an ideal world, I would love to run out the rest of the clock, but in order to do so, we have to move the chains, and I know that we're going to have Wilson. Look at that speed. He just outran both of those defenders, and that guy's all it took to get this program to the next level. If we can keep this up, I'm going to be excited to see how this offense performs in the playoffs. I mean, there's still a couple MAC schools that we have to worry about, like Buffalo and Western Michigan, who always give us issues, but besides them, I would be shocked if anybody was able to take us down with the way that we're playing right now, and the only thing I'm trying to do is get more plays with Joel Johnson, because we all know that he's going to be very missed next season, and they got that ball out so quickly. 3rd and 5, probably our last chance to get a sack with him, and we weren't able to, but for whatever reason, they are taking timeouts and trying to score, and I just want this one to be over. Maybe we will get one more. That is going to bring down Butler, and Joel Johnson is the greatest player in Grand Rapids history. Right now, it feels like Grand Rapids is unstoppable, and Pat Smith is playing out of his mind, only having 1 incompletion while rushing for 79 yards as well, and everybody's just eating. I do think our ranking's starting to get a little bit out of hand, though, because we haven't beaten anybody that would put us in the top 5, and you all aren't going to believe this, but I went over to the Heisman watch, and Pat Smith is on the board at the top. I guess it makes sense as he is an 88% completion percentage right now, and he's also rushed for almost 500 yards and 8 touchdowns, but we still haven't even proven that we're a better team than Buffalo or Western Michigan, and I'm afraid that in these next 3 matchups, all of it could come crumbling down, but at least we have a chance at winning the Michigan MAC trophy, and anybody that wants to come for a visit can come versus Buffalo. We're still in a lead for the top 3 prospects that we really want, but I don't think we're going to get Tyrone. We just can't keep up with LSU. But on the bright side, Clay Booker's about to commit, and John Davis and John Brown should soon as well. Now it's time to see if we can keep on winning, and I can't believe I had no idea Pat Smith was in the Heisman race, but I would have never expected it because I still see us as a small school, but we're not anymore. We're playing in a massive stadium. The MAC conference has actually been put on the map. It's a top 4 or 5 conference, and Zach Wilson is a beast. There's our Heisman contending quarterback though, and if the pressure was not already high, that just added to it. We have to have success now because this could literally go down as the greatest season in Grand Rapids history, and look at that. Zach Wilson's already coming away with a catch, and I am going to try and take the hitch, but that would have been picked off, and that's the thing. I do not play well when there's a lot of pressure, but we have to because Buffalo is a very good program, and this comeback route was our only chance at picking up the first, where somehow Zach Wilson brought it in, and the game was telling me to go for it, so that's what we're going to do, but they boxed up the drag and it was dropped. Well, that is not the greatest start we could have had versus the Bulls, especially since their running back has already shedded one, and I don't know who Sean Brooks is because we've never had to face him before, but I'm going to assume that he's a stud. Buffalo's always got a guy like that, and they're going to pass for the first down here, and they're also going to break that tackle, which makes things way worse. We're about to find ourselves trailing 7-0 if we're not able to get the stop, and this could be intercepted, which it is. Thank you, Hill, for coming down with that. And JUCO cornerback Michael Hill just helped us so much, he might not even realize it. All of the momentum was in the Bulls' favor, but that flipped things, and what happened? I was trying to pitch it, but it wouldn't let me, and the halfback screen is kind of boxed, but it's not going to matter. We still get out of there with Hartman, our slow halfback. I mean, he's got 86 speed, so he really isn't the fastest, but for carrying around 266 pounds, he does pretty well, and Pat Smith needs to get this edge around the cornerback, which he does. One guy to beat, and he won't do it. Now we're in Wildcat, where they want us to throw the ball, and there's no way I'm doing that. I'm just gonna run. I've got to be careful with some of these coach suggestions because I feel like they set me up for failure, and I really like the idea of a bubble screen if they don't guard it, but Zach Wilson didn't catch the ball. There's no question that we're going for it. We should be able to get the right blocks there, and I tried to have fun and get creative with the play calling, but it didn't work. That's why we just had to run it down their throats instead, and on 1st and 10, they're giving this to Davis on the jet sweep, who's going to get them all the way to the first down marker. Who would have thought that he would have pulled that off? I sure could not have predicted that, and I'm pretty sure that was my man, but even though I didn't cover him, it's all good because they're reviewing this catch, and that was a waste of time for everybody. It was obviously in bounds, but it's all good. Our defense has finally found a rhythm, and we're going to see if we can get a sack. Somebody's got to generate pressure. Could this be another pick? It is. That's 2 in this game already, and I think we're going to try and return it. It can't hurt to get to at least the 20. Plus, it's nice to see Kyle Stevens having success because he's jumped like 15 overalls in 2 off seasons. And to start the second quarter, we have the ball again. Hartman goes down though, so I feel like there could have been better ways to hit that hole. We're going to see what he can do on this one, and he got caught. 3rd and 8, it is zone coverage, which makes things a lot harder because we have to get it over to Shelby, and it's dropped, but that's not a surprise. Jeff does that a lot, and I don't like that our offense has struggled a bit in this game. Hopefully this punt can bounce though, and that's going to roll for a bit more. Will Buffalo figure it out on their 3rd offensive drive? That's a big run already, and did the game just cheat me or something? Because all of our players look like they got warped way back. Like when he took that handoff, he literally just exploded out of the gate, and I'm stubborn. We cannot let Sean Brooks get into the end zone here. We have got to get over, make the tackle, forcing them into a 3rd and goal where they just threw it away. Well, seeing that makes me so happy, and they're such pansies to take a field goal in that situation. You're facing off against a top 5 team. We're getting some good blocks, and ideally, if this could be the final drive of the half, that would be beautiful for us. We're just going to continue to go back to our running back since he's doing well, but so is Pat Smith, so we're going to keep it with him on this one for the first down. If he's going to actually win the Heisman, he needs to score some more touchdowns in this game, especially on this drive, so I've just been waiting for the perfect opportunity to mix in play action, and that wasn't it. Our offensive line still can't hold up when we do it, and they just send a blitz at us, which I would have never expected there. I literally should have just kept it on the ground. We got fancy, we tried to pass it, and now we're not going to score points on that drive. I was so worried about potentially getting Heisman votes and putting up good stats that I forgot about the game, and it is far more important that Grand Rapids wins more than anything else. I mean, if we can have success this season, we're going to have plenty of opportunities to get Heisman trophies in the future, and it is now 3rd and 6 where our defense needs to lock up in man-to-man coverage, but we don't. Buffalo is always such a tough opponent for us as they're going to take that drag for 7, but it's going to be hard for them to reach the end zone because there's only about 45 seconds left on the clock, and what could this be? Don't tell me me it's on us. Joel Johnson roughing the passer, and you know what? It was actually deserved. I was trying to get the sack with him, but that's way too late. I think that's the last time that I'm going to manually rush, and we'll just drop back into coverage instead, making sure that none of these verticals are open, because now it's 3rd and 8. I don't know what they thought they were going to go with, but how is he there? He literally found the open space in like 8 different zones, and it's time for Zach Wilson to do what he does best, using his speed to shake things up. But the kick returns have not been working recently, and we'll see if this jet sweep can go anywhere, but it doesn't. I think this is the first time that we've been trailing at the half, and we also don't get ball to start the 3rd quarter, so we have got to wake up, which is kind of ironic. What are they doing? What are they doing? What is happening? Please pick this up. I don't know what happened. Anyway, as I was saying, as I'm filming this, it's 4 a.m. So am I tripping out, or did their quarterback just randomly chuck this ball 15 yards back? I have never in my life seen the computer do something so moronic, but I don't care because it makes up for me being super tired, and we're going to score a touchdown immediately after. It's honestly bad how messed up my sleep schedule is, but once I start filming these Grand Rapids videos, it's pretty hard to put down the controller, and I just hope that we can end the night staying undefeated, because that would be awesome. We got to make this tackle, which we do. So it's 2nd and 8 where they're going to hand it off, and I thought we were about to fill up that hole, but even though we didn't, we're fine because we've gotten them to a 3rd down. Our man-to-man coverage clamps up, and this should be intercepted. Look at that from Sanders. He got over to the ball. That wasn't even his man. And is this going to be his 2nd pick 6 of the year? It really is. Buffalo has turned the ball over to us 4 times in this game, and it doesn't even matter that our offense has been terrible. Our fans are absolutely loving it, and freshman Grant Sanders is starting to become one of my favorite players on this defense. I don't know what Buffalo's plan is to move the ball, because everything that they have tried in this has not worked for them, and what just happened there? Drew Flynn was on that guy, but he didn't stick with him that well, and with this run, they're going nowhere. 2nd and 9 now. It's another handoff, and this is going up the middle for 10, but our defense has already forced 4 turnovers, so I can trust them, and I'd assume that they're going to start passing, but I guess not. 3rd and 11. Will they be able to pick anything up? It's just a halfback screen, so we're all over it, and they have no choice but to punt it back to us. Wait, did they really just fake it? I should have known they were going to go for something like that. We don't get to the ball either. How is Kyle so slow in that situation? I cannot believe that Buffalo just pulled that off against us. They're going to score. I felt like the game was almost over. I was getting really excited, but now it's back within 4 points, and can you imagine if they didn't turn the ball over to start the 2nd half? This would be bad. We'd literally be trailing to the Bulls, and they have twice as many yards as us in this game. That is literally crazy. I didn't think we were doing that bad, but I guess I'm wrong, and if I have to keep going back to what works, I'm not going to be ashamed about it at all. Look at that spin move, and Josh Hartman clearly needed a break because now Ernie Hicks is out there, but he does a lot better when we use him as a receiving back, so that's what we're going to do here. He is one guy to beat on the outer edge, and he was able to snatch his ankles. It was very subtle, but I noticed it, and going into the 4th quarter, we're still in control of this game against the Bulls, but we can't make any mistakes like them, pitching at 15 yards behind, and Hartman goes to the house. There were some beautiful blocks on that touchdown run, and it's about time that we lock up and get them off of the field. We're going to make a hit with Sanders, so Grant keeps on impressing, and this run with Brooks is going for 8. I mean, the defense I'm putting out there is literally set up to stop the pass, so I'm surprised that they're running, but I guess they can keep doing it. There's only so much time remaining, and now it's 2nd and 8 where they had no choice but to go to it where no one was open. This is a crucial 3rd down, and I would love to get them off of the field, but that isn't going to happen. So they have it again, and it's a run. I just feel like they don't pay attention to the clock at all. There's only so much time remaining, and that play action definitely got us. On 1st and 10, they have someone open over there. So maybe Buffalo does know what they're doing, and Brooks is going to take this for 5. I feel like I need to wake up, because if I'm not careful, we could choke this game versus the Bulls. Harris throws it on the run, and they just got it back within 1 possession. I cannot go to bed and sleep at night if we are not able to pull this off. I would be so upset, but at least we stopped them from getting the 2-point conversion, and it is time to get them to burn through all 3 of their final timeouts. Pat Smith is going to take off, and I wish he could have gone all the way, but you know what? It is all good. I trust our rushing attack to go with it 3 times and get the win over the Bulls, where this 3rd and 1 has the game on the line, and Hartman just got hit by the lineman, but it's not going to matter. I almost got really upset because it just warped us into that, but at the end of the day, it's not going to matter. We're still going to beat Buffalo, and I feel like I need to do something with Pat Smith to help his stats, but only if we get a little bit closer to the end zone. I don't want to have to pass. If he rushes, so be it, and we're kind of close now. Well, we might get in with about 10 seconds left. Pat Smith's going to take it up the middle, and that's the perfect ending to this game. We are improving to 7-0, and Josh Hartman did well, which was needed since this was one of our worst passing games, but at least we still ran for over 200, and defensively, this is a performance we're going to think about for a long time. I think it's well deserved that coming up, we have a bye week, and on the other side of it, we have moved up to number 3 in the country, but because he didn't play, our quarterback shot down the Heisman watch, and the only good news that came out of it is Buffalo destroyed Western Michigan, so we'll see if they can bounce back, as it's now the second week in the Michigan-MAC rivalry, and I cannot believe how terrible Central has been, but they're getting blown out by Western Michigan, and I think they're going to rub salt in the wound by scoring in the last seconds. That means we're going to have to win out to win the Michigan-MAC, and that starts at home against Eastern Michigan, where I was about to schedule some visits, but then I started scouting players and realized that we had never scouted these two prospects that have committed who ended up being even better than they were supposed to be. Anyways, for the visits, it's these three guys, and we're starting to get competition, so we're going to have them come versus Eastern. And lastly, before we hop into it, Joel Johnson has 7 sacks right now, so in order to break Derek Thomas's record, he's still going to need 7.5 more. It is time for the second half of our season, and we have another sold-out crowd here at Hulu Field, where everybody is clearly pumped up to see if we can take down Eastern Michigan. They have this guy still, though, and Joe Small paired with senior quarterback Robert Davis could be an issue, but at least we've already gotten them to third down where they're going to pass, and they go over to him. We have 2 players that should make a tackle, and look at David Conception actually doing something right. I feel like he's fit in a lot better as a safety, and we're already getting this return around midfield. If Zach Wilson can get around this edge, he might take us to the 40. And so far, we've been set up to have success versus the Eagles, but they were all over that first run, and now Pat Smith's going to keep it for 5. We should probably start to pass, and man-to-man coverage on JUCO Justin Stevenson isn't going to work, so all is well. Our drive stays alive, and Hartman's going to stumble over here, but it's okay because he's still getting into a rhythm, and those are some good blocks. Just 14 more yards before we reach the end zone. Pat Smith jukes out a defender, and we might as well continue to keep it on the ground because that's what's been working for us, as he's going to reach the end zone. We're picking up right where we left off last night, and we might finish the regular season undefeated, but I'm still worried about a couple of matchups like against Western Michigan and against Michigan, but we do get to host against the Wolverines this year, so that's nice. And I guess Robert Davis did graduate because they have a new quarterback in. Sophomore Ron Warren hasn't led them to much success so far, and I'm just expecting them to keep handing it off to Joe Small, but we were not able to stop him on this play, so we have got to start stepping up, and I am ready for them to scramble where we should get the sack. That was Brad Jones on the end of it, and with Joel Johnson gone next year, he's probably going to be our best rusher. They're going to pick up like a 20-yard gain, and that is so unfortunate. Kyle Stevens shoots the gap, knocking over Joe Small, making it 2nd and 13 where Drew Flynn gets over there, and that takes us to the end of the quarter, where so far I've been pretty happy with how we've played. Our zones just need to lock up, and we do. That was 3 solid tackles in a row, and that never happens, but maybe our defense is getting better, which is what we want to see. On this first one, Pat Smith goes nowhere, but I'm not worried about it in the slightest. This is man-to-man coverage. They've sent a blitz, and he's going to roll out on the run to find Allen Brown for the first. Even sensing the pressure late isn't going to make a difference. If we pitch this one over to Justin Stevenson, I'm expecting him to get around their defense. Look at him go. The wide receiver is probably gone. That's going to put us up 14-3, and our offense is literally one of the best in the country. That's what happens when you get USC's former offensive coordinator, and here's the run that we all expected, but their quarterback keeping it, we didn't, and he has broken that tackle. Don't tell me he's about to go to the house. Someone please bring him down. It's nice to know for the future that Warren's able to take off like that, because now he's always going to have to get around a quarterback spy, and here on 3rd and 10, you know that they're probably going to take that flat, so I try to get over to it in time, but the tackle makes all of the difference because there was simply no way that they were about to hit a 55-yarder, and they've given Wilson a chance to return this to the house. They're getting a lot of good blocks. Come on, we just have to get 1 or 2 more. I think there's a flag, though. That's so unfortunate. This one is definitely coming back. And come on, Joel Johnson. However, it has been spotted here, so I'm not sure what difference it made. And I feel like something had to glitch out because I don't understand how after we got flagged we'd be at the 14-yard line. But that's something that happens with these old games, and we are going to almost score, except Dante Moss can't hang on. Well, I guess it probably is deserved that we should only get 3, and I'll have to watch that back to figure out what happened. Our defense has been doing so well, though, that I'm not too worried about it. I feel like we can still stop them. And with 2 minutes left, they just run the ball, so we should have been all over it. There we are. After taking a timeout, Zach Wilson's going to have another chance to make a difference. I was worried that that defender was going to tackle him, but it's not going to matter, and look at him continue to go. We haven't even done that much offensively, but we're up by 14, and we are really controlling this game against our in-state rivals. I can sense that we're starting to separate a little bit from all the teams in the MAC as we're showing that we're the better program, so maybe next season we need to have some harder out-of-conference opponents on our schedule, and there's Dante Moss. It's nice to see him reeling it in, and then we're giving this one to Josh Hartman, who gets another 15 yards. So closing in on halftime, we're about to get another touchdown, and we're going to pass down on the goal line where you know that we can hit Zach Wilson. I feel like this is the best game that we have played all year because they've done almost nothing on our defense, and it's already over unless we really choked. Because of that, I hope you all don't mind that I already have chew clock on, and if they can get it back within 2 possessions, I'll turn it back off, but that first down is going to help us move the chains, and out of Wildcat, Hartman's going to get like 5. If that was Ben Fowler in the game, that might have been a house call. I still miss him, but now we have somebody just as fast at wide receiver who we haven't gone to in a while, but that's a beautiful throw. Zach Wilson just broke Matt Land's school record as well, so we have a new best wide receiver in school history, at least assuming that he's able to keep this up through the rest of his career, and there's a sack. Now, unfortunately, Joel Johnson didn't get credit, so he still needs a lot of them, and we're going to try to do it with him on this play, but they got the ball out in time to Johnson, who actually got the first. For the rest of this game, since it's pretty much a guarantee that we should come out on top, I'm just going to focus on trying new things defensively, like figuring out our man-to-man coverage, and they're going to scramble for another one. Ideally, I'd love if the Eagles didn't get any more points. I want to be on top of it going into the Western Michigan one, and that's going to be a fumble that we forced out. The refs are not reviewing it either. We're just going to hike it quick because I want to make sure we keep the ball, and look at Josh Hartman going. He's going to juke out 47, and he might take this to the house by himself. It's a shame that all 266 pounds of him aren't a bit quicker, but he's still pushing it as he's still out there on the field, and he wants to get his touchdown. I cannot believe how bad this is getting, but right now we're in a rhythm more than we have ever been before. I'm going to stick with the drag, but since we didn't generate any pressure, they had too much time, and I'm a little worried that next year, especially with Joel Johnson gone, who just got a sack in this game, we're going to really struggle to get defensive pressure because we're also losing our starting defensive tackle, but Jordan Williams, the freshman corner, gets the interception, and I wonder if he's going to be able to take it to the crib. Okay, maybe not. It's all good though because we've ended the third quarter dominating against them, and Hartman just did not want to go down. I cannot believe how bad this is getting, and it still isn't close to what Georgia did to Florida State in that bowl game. We are going to get another interception with Jamal Davis, and for whatever reason, the backups are still not out there on the field, but after this drive, we will definitely sub them in, and I don't want to risk any mistakes. Josh Hartman's going to spin that defender out, and is there a way he reaches the end zone? Oh my gosh. This is the best we have ever performed by far. Like, I'm at a loss for words. Is Grand Rapids really this good? This is awesome. I honestly thought this could be a super close matchup, but they haven't been able to do a thing, and the Eagles have really fallen off at this point. I don't even feel bad about running up the score either because they're our rivals and we're proving that we're dominant, but stat-wise, it really hasn't been this big of a difference, and I don't understand why Andrew Luck still has his starters out there, but I'm going to make sure we sub them out. It just wouldn't make sense for anybody to potentially get injured, so Brian Johnson is going to get some reps for this team. He's going to run to the outside. He doesn't even need to pitch it to Ernie, and these two seniors will not be on our roster next year, but they're the backups that we get to watch, and Brian Johnson is going backwards. Well, it's time to see what we can throw for on 3rd and 9. Can he fit it into that window? Yes, he can. It's Jeff Shelby getting open, and this has got to be our biggest win in school history. I don't think there's any other situation where we've won by 49. If we could score on this play, it would be more, but this is the final one of the day, and it didn't go anywhere, but we've improved to 8-0 anyway, and all of our players are going to have a good time celebrating. Josh Hartman had the best performance, obviously, but I don't want to discredit Pat Smith, who had 3 touchdowns and then another one on the ground. Zach Wilson also broke Matt Land's record, and all 3 of our visiting recruits have committed to our program. That is awesome because I really wanted Jay Atkins, John Brown, and John Davis, who, if you don't remember, might be our future quarterback, and what I'm about to show you all after this is going to shock you. The 2 teams above us have picked up a loss, so we've moved up to the #1 spot, and Pat Smith is back to climbing up the Heisman watch list. Of our last 4 games, though, 3 of them are against some very good programs, and I know that right now we're set up to have success in the Michigan-MAC rivalry, with the result of this one really not mattering, but Central's going after some 5 stars, and I'm telling you, these schools are recruiting so much better. I don't know what it is, but the MAC could be a good conference in the future, and this has to be one of the worst Eagles teams that we've seen in a while. They didn't win versus any of their rivals, but what we really care about is if we're able to land these final 5 recruits on our board and how we're going to do in the war on Route 131. It's going to be good as it's snowing hard, and if we lose this game, we might not make the MAC championship, so we have got to take care of business versus Western Michigan, and you can barely see a thing because it's coming down so hard. Okay, here on 2nd and 5, another run, but we're all over it, so we could hold them to a 3 and out, and is this a wide receiver screen that's going to get open? Okay, someone just make the tackle. We've yet to see a play like that, so it's nice to know that they can pull something out like it. We need Grant Sanders to make this one though, and come on. This is not the same defense that just dominated against Eastern Michigan, and how are they getting so many yards? It's like we're leaving the middle wide open for them, and Anthony Browning has a lot of time back there. We're not generating any pressure, but he just throws it away. That's a little concerning, but at least we were able to stop them, and look at these clamps from our man-to-man coverage, besides Jordan Williams getting cooked, and we did run commit, but they decided to pass instead, so that could have been really bad, and it is. It was about time that we were going to have another tough matchup again. Zach Wilson, though, juking that guy out, and can this kick return change everything for us? Keep on going. I didn't mean to spin out of bounds, but at least we're starting our drive on their 40-yard line, and that's a good truck from Hartman. He legitimately just ran a player over like it was nothing, and on 3rd and 1, I'm expecting him to pick this up where he got the right blocks. That's what we want to see so far, and Pat Smith will keep this one, but I'll admit, I hit hit L1 to pitch it, and it could have ended really terribly for us. 3rd and 3 now, where they went with man-to-man coverage, but they knocked down our pass, and it probably wouldn't make sense to go for it since this is a super easy 38-yard field goal. The only annoying part about that is now we're down by 4, but it's still super early, and our man-to-man coverage did not stick, but they weren't able to hook up with their receiver, so it is 3rd down where we have gone with zone, and Joel Johnson could not get in any pressure for us. How is McMillan up? I swear, Western Michigan always gets the perfect thing that they need in every situation, but eventually their luck has to run out, and that could be here. We've gotten them to a 3rd and 8 where they have to pick it up, and I'm going to stick with this in route with Kyle Stevens. Now we're going to try and make the tackle in time, and thankfully it was marked as 4th and inches. That's going to bring us to the end of the first quarter, and I'm hoping that this drive can finish with more than just a field goal for us, because that last one simply let me down, and Zach Wilson on the jet sweep's going to get the first, but I'm not done feeding him the ball. I want him to make plays, and they boxed that up. It's been a while since a wide receiver screen's gotten shut down like that for us. We're going to get like 6 back, making it a 3rd and manageable where that hitch route found the space, but Jeff Shelby drops the ball. To be honest, I've seen enough of him, so he's getting subbed out for sophomore Mark Adams, and even with all the coordinator boost, bringing up his overall by like 5, he still doesn't know how to catch. At least this is a good punt inside the 4, and you know that we're about to send the house at Western Michigan, but they've slipped out of there, and that could have ended really badly for us on 2nd and 3. I want to stick with the slant, but there's just nobody over there to guard Pearson, and it makes me so mad when I know that there are guys in zones that should be sticking on him, but we're going to stick with these cover 3 looks because it has confused Anthony Browning in this matchup so far, but I guess not on that one to their tight end. Whenever you don't switch up things versus the computer, they figure you out, so I really should have. I can't get back to that ball. The Broncos are playing us very well right now, and David Conception just got tripped up by his own player, so somebody else like Grant Sanders is going to have to make the tackle, and they are so close to putting us down by 11 where that's going to the 1. I've decided to run commit on 2nd and goal, which worked, and we probably shouldn't do the same here, but we have to stick with that slant, and come on. How does senior Drew Flynn not knock over Anthony Browning here? He just threw him off of him, and we should have held them to 3, but that's the game saying no, you're not going to hold them to just a field goal. Zach Wilson with a nice back juke though, getting to the outer edge, and his returns have been putting our offense in better positions. I was hoping we could get a block for Hartman, but he outran our guard beforehand, and on this one we're just going to move the chains. It's probably best to come out and pass on our next one where the corner route to Justin Stevenson got open, and I like that they're trying to press some of our receivers, but I didn't take what I should have, so Pat Smith is going to have to roll around, throw it, and that is going to be caught. I feel like whenever we're patient in the pocket with our sophomore quarterback, he can turn nothing into something, and I've started to chew the clock because I don't want them to get the ball back before the start of the second half, but Josh Hartman had a touchdown and we had to take it in. Let's just hope they don't do anything with that 51 seconds, and it looks like they're actually going to run the ball on this first play, so I thought maybe they were taking things to the half and we're not going to get that sack. I tried my best to do it all with Joel Johnson, and we don't have enough people up front, but at least they don't seem to be in a rush, and I feel like I could pick them with Drew Flynn if they would just make the wrong read, but Anthony Browning is playing way smarter than the Eastern Michigan quarterback did, and it's a big deal that we tackled them a yard short of the marker if they don't pick this up, which they're not going to. That's a massive defensive hold because it looked like they were about to score on us before the half, and now we have a chance to if Wilson can get a good return to the outside. I see some great blocks. There's one guy to beat, and look at Zach Wilson changing everything for Grand Rapids University. We were about to go into the half trailing by 4, but now we're going to have a 3-point lead, and those are the plays that you have to have with your special teams. Look at Hartman going. It is rare to see our running back lose yards, and they had double teamed on Zach Wilson, who was my only read on the play, even though the corner route probably got open, and they get the sack. I stared down that one route because I didn't expect them to double team him, and now they're going to get this punt inside our 50-yard line, which is not good, but at least their returner stumbled over, which does help us, and they're just going to take it to Quinn for 6. I can't think back on the mistakes that I make. I'm bound to do it. I'm human, and the only thing we can control right now is the future where our defense steps up. I can trust them after how we ended that first half. That's going to be a big hit, making it 3rd and 11, and Browning is not out there, so I want to send a lot of pressure at the backup quarterback where no way they get this. It was marked as a 4th and inches, and we are going to send a blitz in his direction where we knock it down, so that's why you put pressure on a backup, and I hope that Browning's out for the rest of the game because that would help us a ton. 2nd and 8, a little bit of play action can't hurt, but they stuck with the drag that I wanted to take, and I'm not sure anything got open, so it's a good thing that we have Pat Smith in his legs. When I watch that back, maybe I'll see that there was something for a split second, but my guess is probably not, and we're just going to feed it over to Zach Wilson where he makes both of those defenders miss to get us the first. We desperately needed something like that to go our way, and I think I had 2 things open on the left side, but I was staring down the right side, so let's just go back to running the ball where I know we can have some success. Pat Smith really separates himself from other quarterbacks when he starts to run the ball, and let's see if they bite at the play action. They did not, but they're not guarding Zach, and they might have just taken us out of field goal range range unless we're able to convert here, and that's off target. We had Stevenson for the first down, but you know what? It'll be all right. We're getting him inside the 10. And through about the last quarter, defense has started to show up. Anthony Browning is back on the field, though, and he pitches this one to Pearson. So we need to shoot through this gap with Kyle Stevens, and we couldn't. I think our run defense is starting to look better, though, but maybe that's just because they throw the ball quite a bit, and they're going to go back to Pearson. But those short gains really don't help as it's third down, and he's not going to get them anywhere. All we have to do is score a touchdown, and we can really take control of this one. I saw a couple of great blocks there. Pat Smith's going to get 20. So we just have to continue to push it down the field from here, and then we pitch it last second to Josh Hartman, who's going to not get the block from Dante Moss. And I can't believe it because now he has to work for this touchdown, but that's what we needed with 5 minutes left. And they are starting this drive in Wildcat, where we forced the fumble with Conception, but they bounced right on top of it. And that's why I always go for the hit stick instead of just a normal tackle. It pays off sometimes, but they're going to break free with their backup running back. And can Michael Hill catch him? Yes, he can. It stinks, though, that all we had to do was scoop up that loose ball on the ground, and then this one would be completely over. But instead, the Broncos still have a chance, and that should have been picked. Anthony Browning's fall off in this game is something that should probably be studied, and we just have to clutch up on this 4th and 4 where they're passing, and no way they're going to get it. They were half an inch short again, and that's what's going to make the difference in the game because stuff like that's happened to them like 4 times. I'm not going to lie, they kind of dominated us when it came to total yards, but we're still going to come out on top, and this just shows that we have got to be on top of our game in these last few weeks or we're in trouble. We still haven't even beaten a ranked school this year, so it's not like we deserve the #1 spot, but it feels like we're almost locked into the playoffs at this rate if we keep having success. And I would have never imagined that we would pull that off in season 7, but we've looked so good. I'm very proud of how far this school's come, and that was an amazing result to get on the road. We still had a lot of fans travel out to the game because they wanted to see us beat Anthony Browning one final time, and the war on Route 131 goes to us, with Pat Smith only completing 5 passes, but it ended up being okay because of Josh Hartman and then Zach Wilson. Only with return yards, though, because it was rough when it came to receiving, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we have finally lost out on Tyrone Lewis, so we can't win every battle even as the #1 team. But what I find interesting is Michigan just lost at Maryland, and Western Kentucky also picked up a loss, so our end of season schedule isn't as difficult. We've also locked in our spot in the MAC championship, and now we just have to take care of business, where fortunately for us, Toledo's dealing with multiple injuries, and we've avoided them pretty much all season, but I'm gonna knock on wood because I don't want to jinx us, and I trust our defense to help us get things started the right way, as that should have been a TFL, but they just broke 2 tackles, and at this rate, that's the type of stuff that we're used to, as they're going to pick up the first down. We've got some younger guys out there, though, so obviously our tackling stats aren't the best, as that's going to be another miss, and so far, from what I've been able to tell, they're just going to keep everything underneath, so I'm not going to worry about them beating us deep, and as long as we continue to stack the box, I think we'll end up being okay, because now it is 3rd and 9 where they're trying to pick this up, and they are going to over there. Well, maybe I was a little bit too confident in our man-to-man coverage against them, and I would just love if we could hold them to a field goal. That would be so nice, but Wilson's going to get them the first down, and we have seen Jason Wilson's name for a while now. On 1st and 10, he takes off, but he couldn't go anywhere, and then on 2nd down, we got over there with Kyle Stevens, making it 3rd and short, where I hope that we're able to hold them, and we do. In order to beat us, though, they're going all out, and instead of kicking their field goal like the CPU normally does, they just ran it in for a touchdown on 4th down, but it's okay because they missed their extra point, so we could take a lead on this drive if it's a good one. And all I'm gonna say is ever since we renovated our stadium, adding in all the stands, we have yet to lose, so we have to defend our home field advantage, and this is going to go for nothing. We should probably go back to passing the ball, where we know that Jeff Shelby can make a play, but I thought I made sure that we wouldn't see his face the rest of the year by subbing him out, and he'll either get you like 25 yards or drop the ball with nothing in between. So far, I'm really liking what I'm seeing, and we have faked him out by getting it over to Ernie Hicks, who goes nowhere. So there was one defender that we couldn't fool, and this bubble screen's going to be caught by Allen Brown, but they've marked him a yard short, so it is 4th and 1 where Pat Smith gets it. Those design quarterback runs make me very nervous, but at least that one worked out, and they have not stuck with Zach Wilson, who has a lot of space here. But unfortunately, it took him just a second too long to cut up field, and why is Hartman so slow? I feel like sometimes when he takes the handoff, he actually looks quick like Pat Smith did there, but other times it's pretty rough, and it's like they knew the jet sweep was coming. We're going to try another type of option run, though, and this one could have been pitched, but Pat Smith kept it instead, which was the right move, but now we have to convert on 3rd and goal. They've sent in the pressure, and Pat Smith makes it. I cannot believe that he was able to turn that into a touchdown, but what we're going to do is actually make our extra point, and this has been a solid offensive start for both teams, where we should have made the tackle on the first hit, and I'm starting to wonder if maybe using the hit stick actually hurts our chance of tackling. I always assumed it would help because you're going in with a lot of power, but maybe it actually hurts us, and look at that. They're going to have somebody break free at the last second. Well, they've gotten it to midfield, but we shot in that gap, and they just shedded it when I did a normal tackle, so so it doesn't make a difference. Either way, we're going to struggle to bring the opposing running backs down like we did right there, and I don't see myself ever changing that slider because it keeps things really competitive. As we've gotten better as a team, we have noticed that we've started to make some more tackles, and that's forced out. So what a defensive play from the freshman, who saw that he was fighting to hang on to this ball and just came in and delivered the hammer. Toledo only getting a field goal here is a big deal because we get the ball to start the second half, and Zach Wilson's going to catch this one where he spins out both of those defenders. I wish we could get him some more targets sometime because we know he's effective, but because of that, they've also started to double team him on certain plays, but not this one. He's not out there on the field for this one, so I'm going to look over in Shelby's direction, but they generated pressure quick enough on us, and we're just going to roll out and throw this one on the run where the zone locked up what I wanted. 3rd and 10 now. Will they keep up over on that side of the field? No, they will not, but Stevenson couldn't get a foot in, and that's why we don't pass the ball that much. We seem to have more success when we run it, and this punt is going to go to the end zone. We've given them 54 seconds left to score again, but if they were playing smart, they'd probably just take things to the half because you don't want to risk turning it over, and I think that's exactly what they're going to do. This is the final play where they actually did pass it. They didn't just run it down, but it should have been picked, but it wasn't, so it's 9-7. And I also just realized something. We won the Michigan-Mac rivalry outright, and I've been so focused on our #1 ranking and us staying undefeated that I didn't even realize it until that moment. Zach Wilson just got some good blocks on this kick return though, and if we want to avoid losing an embarrassing one like this, we've got to step it up in the second half. I think the best thing we could do is go back to running the ball with Josh Hartman like this, because so far the freshman is averaging almost 10 yards per carry, and that's going to stay true on this run too. More passing is not the solution for this team. Ernie Hicks is going to break that tackle, but I don't really like having him out there in Wildcat for that exact reason. Now we find ourselves in a 3rd and 5 where this play worked for us earlier on in the year, so I'm going to try it again. Stevenson catches it, and that's going to reach the marker plus more. Man, it's nice to see our offense having success, especially here, because the slow and controlled drives are so satisfying, but they knew the run was coming, and now on 3rd down, we're taking our angle route where Hartman reels it in. We had to trust him to get the job done there, and now he finds the open space, but getting the 2-point conversion would also be nice, and Pat Smith's going to step up. All right, 1st and 10, they just did a little bit of play action, and we could have intercepted it there, but the game didn't give us an animation, and I was just spamming triangle for no reason. Kyle Stevens doesn't make the tackle. I just missed that with Sanders accidentally, and Green is going to have to track down number 20 before he reaches the end zone. But even though he was successfully able to, Toledo is flying down the field way too quick for my liking, and nobody stepped up to stop Wilson. We cannot let them get in, and I tried to get up that gap, but they're about to take a 1-point lead on us, and the Rockets have been one of our toughest games of the year. I don't know how, because they're not even that good, and I feel like we've done decently offensively. This pitch to Hartman is going to go for another 10 or 15 yards, and right now he is performing at an exceptional level. That's another truck, so we have no reason to go away from the run unless Ernie Hicks is in, and why is there a defender there? He's going to get the interception. Oh my gosh. I saw that Adams dusted his man, and I just assumed he was gone to the house considering they sent a blitz, but they left one guy hanging out in a zone over the middle, and that is not good. Good thing it's 2nd and 14. Now it's going to be 3rd and long, and Joel Johnson might be struggling to get sacks, but that tackle for loss is going to set up our defense to have success. There's no way that this drag actually converts for them, and are you kidding me? When I click off, our defender just pushes him across the marker, and now we have to stop all of these deep routes where their tight end's going to break that tackle and get them inside our 5. The Rockets are so close to going up by 8 points. We should have had the pick. What do I have to do more for Kyle Stevens to catch that? Like, legitimately, I was hitting triangle and everything, and he just let it go through his head. A little bit of panic is starting to set in, but we can bounce back from this. It's 2nd and goal where we just missed the sack, and Jason Wilson was able to take it in for a touchdown. That is on me. I should have wrapped him up with Drew Flynn. Now we need Wilson to come up with a big return, and he got caught. I do find it interesting that they won't press Zach Wilson, but they will press Dante Moss, knowing that he isn't going to run by their cornerbacks, and there's no reason we should be passing that much. We've already turned it over, but we also can't keep it on the ground forever, and Pat Smith will get this for 6 or 7. I just want Josh Hartman to break off a massive run, but he has to get the right blocks in order to do it, and the boulder has definitely cleared more than 100 rushing yards at this point, but since he's not out there, we're going back to passing a little bit of a fake to Hicks, and they did not buy it with our pocket collapsing, so we have to get this 3rd and 8. Justin Stevenson holds on, spins the defender out, and we really needed that. Now Pat Smith keeps the option, but they're going to stop him short, and he isn't getting up from it either. Now you know for a fact that all we're going to do is hand it off, and Ernie Hicks is in the game on this halfback screen. He does do well with these, but they have just locked it up completely. They're saying we should just take a field goal, and Pat Smith is out for the rest of the game, but I really don't know if we can trust our defense, and I can't burn a timeout, so I just had to make a quick decision, but I don't know if it was the right one. Just because we're down by 8 and we needed the 2-point conversion as well, I think it might be, but I'm going to have to stack the box, and on this first one we get a good stop. That is exactly what we needed, because now I'm sure they're going to have a harder time running the ball, and they do. This is such a big 3rd and 14. We cannot give it up. I think everything is guarded, and I'm all over it. So we have forced the stop, and if Zach Wilson was ever going to have a huge punt return, this would be the time for it to happen. We're going to go over here, do a little bit of a back juke, see if that side of the field is open, and there's only a couple guys to beat. Number one isn't going to keep up with him, just like 4 or 5 more, and that's good. Now what we'll do is keep it on the ground with Josh Hartman, who we know can get this outer edge. He is quick enough to do so. Get in the first. And as long as we have the ball, it is going to stay on the ground, but this might be too quick. We have left Toledo a ton of time still, and the 2-point conversion would really help us where Brian Johnson gets in. I think I'm willing to trust our defense because they held it down on that last drive, but we also don't really have a choice, and we should probably start putting some spies. That's what we've done on this play, and Joel Johnson, I tried to generate pressure with him, but he couldn't, so I'm glad that Jason Wilson tripped over, making it 3rd and 10 where they just have slants. We are guarding all of them besides that one. We had 3 yellow zones over the middle, so I figured they'd take the one that I wasn't able to stick with, but now they're getting another 20, and it's starting to look like this is setting up for overtime. Wilson takes off. We need to make a big hit, but he was smart enough to slide in time, and on 3rd and 2, I'm literally going to be the quarterback spy, but they just handed it off, so I'm going to have to do it on this play. I'm waiting for him to scramble, and they are still going to get like 5. All we have to do is make sure that all they get's a field goal, but they could be out of range with this false start, and I refuse to press any of their receivers in this situation, as it is now 3rd and 9. We'll see what they do. Joel Johnson doesn't get to their quarterback, and we're really headed to overtime versus Toledo. We have to use Brian Johnson as well, which could end bad for us. Let's see what Zach Wilson can do, though. Could he end the game with a kick return? Wait. Zach Wilson is going to end the game with a kick return. There's no overtime. There's no reason for there to be overtime. This is exactly what you want to see. Yes, I am stretching it, but that's because it's the greatest play in school history, and your Grand Rapids Mastodons are going to stay undefeated. That is exactly what we needed there at the end, and I cannot believe that that just happened, but that was awesome. When you look at our stats from that game, the only player that really stood out offensively was Josh Hartman, but Wilson had almost 300 total yards when it came to returning, and it looks like Pat Smith's injury has dropped him down on the Heisman watch. I know he had a rough game, but at least we're starting to get some really good coach upgrades, and the Hilltoppers have now lost 2 straight, so I'm feeling pretty confident going into this one, especially since they're missing 3 offensive players, and I hope they end up sitting this one out, but they probably won't because it's their senior night versus the #1 team in the country, and that Toledo matchup was a wake-up call that we are not unbeatable. I'm honestly very worried that we're going to get exposed versus Michigan next week because that's what they did to us last year, but it's at home and we've gotten better, so why are we getting held to a 3 and out? This stadium is packed. Everybody wants to beat Grand Rapids now, and I just don't know what we should do. That's going to be fumbled though, and they picked it up anyway. There is so much pressure on everybody right now, but we are not going to let DJ Walker run on us, and it's too bad that Joel Johnson isn't getting sacks this year like he had in his previous 3 seasons, but expecting 15 was always going to be a lot, and on 3rd and 4, it's a halfback screen where we tackle him down. I would be very shocked if they punted this ball inbounds to Zach Wilson after seeing what he did last week, but they must not be concerned, and that pitch is going to be fumbled. Are you serious? He just faked us out. Huff sheds the tackle. That's a touchdown. I've never seen this guy freeze like he's going to stop the quarterback and then commit, but that's one of the best plays that the computer has ever made on me, and come on, Zach Wilson, let's get a good return to bounce back from it. I know that you have the speed to get to this outer edge. There's no way these guys catch you, and you are still going forward. That is exactly what we need to change everything, but they're going to get in pressure, so we're just throwing it over to Shelby, and it's swatted down. I do not like that we're struggling versus the Hilltoppers right now, so we're going to go to Hartman, who runs a guy over in the process, and if anybody's going to move the chains, it's him. We're on 3rd and 2. He does that plus a lot more. Now that Ernie Hicks is in, I'm looking in Dante Moss's direction, but they stuck with him well, and we just fumbled it again to the Hilltoppers. Pat Smith is not holding on to the ball well in this game, and Walker is going to have the space to run for like 15 yards. They don't fumble, and we have to figure out how to stop DJ Walker, who's PJ Walker's younger brother, and in his time at Western Kentucky, we've normally not had any issues, but last year they weren't on the schedule, and he's clearly improved a lot since we played him 2 years ago. I've also noticed they're doing a really good job of milking the clock because they'll wait like 10 seconds before hiking the ball, and that is not normal. He is still running, and I'm just going to wait for him to scramble with Joel Johnson so we can get a sack here, but this time he decided to throw, and Johnson is left open. I think he's going to make this to the house. What a terrible first quarter from us, but since he was marked short, we could still get a stop, and he's a wide receiver, so I can't believe that he slid like a pansy, but this is our chance to get them off of the field, and with the halfback toss, we can't. I can't remember the last time we were down by 14, but at least it's early in the game, so we still have plenty of time to bounce back with some great blocks on this run, but not actually, because by the time we got to that part of the field, they weren't held, field, and now it's 3rd and 3. We're going to go to one of our slants, whichever one gets open, and it was Dante Moss, but by the time he did, they had already generated pressure, and I am almost speechless right now. We are playing terrible. They almost blocked that punt even, but at least this ball bounces to like the 30-yard line, and we cannot be collapsing to end our year. This is our chance to make the playoffs. We are number 1, and I already know that we're going to probably struggle against Michigan, but the game makes it so hard to go undefeated, and I just missed that tackle. Come on, Kyle Stevens. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to say stop the quarterback scramble and focus on quarterback, so hopefully DJ Walker can no longer go for all of these huge gains on us, but that's a first. And I was expecting a run, but they decided to go back to passing. This is where he scrambles, and what are we doing? If I wouldn't have made that play with my user, nobody would have stopped him, and we are going to have to make a tackle with Williams, forcing them into a 3rd and 3, where I'm going to stick with that underneath, and Walker gets the first. I don't want to run commit, but it probably would have helped us. Drew Flynn did not make the tackle, and I'm just expecting DJ Walker to drop back and take off, but he hands it off, and I'm going to take a timeout because before the end of the half, we have got to have another offensive drive, and that ball should have been intercepted. I am so mad at Michael Hill right now because even though he helped us lock up on the goal line, I feel like that could have been a pick 6, and let's go, Wilson. Let's get a good return. You've already had one. Come on, get out of there. Well, something definitely isn't right now, so I'm going to take a timeout. And what is going on with this game? On 1st and 10, we did a little bit of play action, and Pat Smith just got in pressure immediately, so we're going to have to scramble for it with him. And I keep forgetting that on these sliders, I've got to take that off of the play, but we can't get it out. And I had to wait for Dante Moss to get separation because nobody else was open, but he couldn't, and that's reeled in. Okay, that's at least a little bit of a sigh of relief. We have moved the chains. Now we can go to Wilson. And this is a designed rollout play where Smith is going to not have his corner route, but he will have Zach for another first. We're going to keep going back to our best wide receiver, but he got clamped up here. And I'm hoping that we have Allen Brown up the seam, but I don't really want to take it, so we're going to go over to Wilson, and he wasn't able to reel it in. 3rd and 11. This is one of my favorite plays where the tight end's corner route looks so good, but I don't like Jeff Shelby being out there on the field because we can't trust him to catch the ball, so I'm just going to throw it away. All right, we still have 25 seconds left before the half, and we just got to take what they give us here because I trust we can reach the end zone, and that C route from Dante Moss is going to go for 6. I'm so glad the senior created separation because without that, we would have been in a ton of trouble. And don't get me wrong, we're still not sitting pretty, but their offense hasn't been the best, and do not tell me that they're about to take this one for a big run. Come on, guys. We just had to make sure he didn't get a touchdown there, and it's time for our defense to step up in the 3rd quarter, but they didn't on this first play, giving up a 15-yarder. I'm so conflicted because I can't tell if this team wants to run the ball or pass on us, but at least we stopped that DJ Walker scramble and him right there. This is what we need. It is 3rd and 14. They just had a wide receiver screen out there. They're not going to get it. We forced the fumble, and why can't we pick it up and take it back for a touchdown? It's all good because we're getting the ball back, but it would have been nice, and Zach Wilson does not have the speed to get around all of these defenders, except they're going to trip each other up, so that helps. All right, now we can go back to the run since there's no pressure time-wise, and Pat Smith should have pitched it, but he was having flashbacks to what happened earlier on in the game, so he didn't do it. Ernie Hicks is going to take it to the 38, and I don't know if I should trust a halfback screen on 3rd and 5 in this situation, but they bit at it, and we got the blocks that we needed with Josh Hartman, who actually got out of there, and there was just one more player to beat, but he could not do it, and this is another 8. I'm not gonna lie, I was really worried when we were approaching halftime, but now that we're about to get it back within 3, we should be okay, and it's nice that Dante Moss is finally doing something. I think our defensive adjustments on DJ Walker have really helped us out, and here on 2nd and 11, we can just assume that he's gonna try and scramble, but he didn't even have time to do that. I'm literally just waiting around for it to happen, but they try and hit us with the halfback screen instead, which we're all over, and this is how things should have went from the start, but we're figuring it out. Zach Wilson's gonna take this past midfield, past the 40, and he's gonna get it all the way to the 30. What a game-changing player he has been for us this season, but I haven't been able to take as many deep shots to him as I would have liked because teams know he's quick, so they don't press him, and Pat Smith with some great pocket awareness there, but he doesn't fumble either. That was my biggest concern there since I definitely needed to slide in that situation, and a little bit of triple option should work to reach the end zone, but even if it doesn't, it sets up a super easy one for Hartman, where he just acted like this player didn't exist. That is 21 straight points for your Mastodons, and they're just going back to running since passing hasn't worked in their favor either. Why did we not make the tackle there? Whenever I don't click on, those are the type of weird things that happen, and I'm not sure that there's very much we can do about this one because they took advantage of our man coverage, and on this play, DJ Walker is going down. Adam Montgomery has racked up 3 sacks while Joel Johnson still has 0, and it's safe to say that he probably isn't breaking an NCAA record this year, but that's okay because he still put up crazy numbers, and he should be the second player in Grand Rapids history to get drafted. We're stopping him here, making it 3rd and 6, and they're still in this game, but they have to convert on 4th and 4, and they're not going to. That was one of the worst plays I've ever seen, but I'm just glad that they couldn't draw something something up that they were going to have success with, because with a few first downs, we can end it. We really did not deserve to win this one, but we've played so much better in the second half, and everybody had to step up to erase our rough start, but we have done it. And now all that stands between us and the win is simply 11 yards, where Pat Smith is going to get it all here, but he could take it all the way to the crib because nobody can catch the quarterback. These are the exact type of turnarounds that we have to have, and I think we're ready for Michigan. We pretty much locked in our playoff spot with a win in this game. Adam Montgomery did not get in pressure there in time, but I saw him getting very close to the quarterback, and they're just taking a couple. It's kind of crazy that we still haven't won a MAC championship, but going into season 7, all of that can change, and they are just going to take this to the outside of the field where they get 15. I'm acting like the game is already over, but technically it isn't. They could still score twice on us, but with our defense, it's going to be hard to do because they've had no success in the second half. DJ Walker does get a ton of time back there though, so it's no surprise that he keeps finding receivers, and my fear against Michigan is they're going to exploit that. We should get the sack. Joel Johnson can't bring him down though, and how did he make that throw? I feel like we have witnessed some really wild things in this dynasty. This is going to go for another first, and our second half shutout is about to come to an end if we cannot step up on the goal line, which is honestly all that I'm worried about, and they are trying to run, which won't work. We force the fumble. That is it. A perfect second half from our defense gets us the win, and Adam Montgomery won player of the game. But honestly, that surprises me because Pat Smith played pretty well, scoring all 3 of our touchdowns, and it evidently didn't impress the Heisman voters either because he's dropped out of the race. I guess I was forgetting about those 2 fumbles, but we're still the #1 team, and after we play Michigan in the conference championship, we're going to be taking on Ball State again, who gave us a really good fight at the beginning of the year. So in these next 2 matchups, we've got to be on top of it, and it doesn't help that Michigan just came off of a win against Ohio State. It's time for the biggest game of the year, and Hulu Field is packed out for this one, and I hope that we can compete with the Wolverines, but in order to do so, we're definitely going to have to establish the run, and that's not a bad start. Last year, we let things get out of hand way too quickly, so we can't have the same this season, and if any of our wide receivers are going to be on a jet sweep, it's going to have to be Zach Wilson, but they were quick to lock him up. On 2nd and 9, the counter goes nowhere, so it is 3rd down where they're not going with man-to-man coverage. It's zone, and we are going to have Dante Moss. That was stressful, but we have kept our first drive alive for the time being, and we're going to have to trust Dante on this bubble screen where he goes nowhere. I do think it's good that we're getting him involved already though, and Allen Smith got open, so right now this is the perfect start against the Wolverines, but that did not work in our favor, and I'm just going to take our zig over to Shelby, who is going to spin for the first. I'm hoping that our slow and controlled offense can keep us in this game for as long as possible, and on 2nd and 4 with the speed option, I think Pat Smith will get the first, but they're saying he was marked short, so it's now 3rd and inches, and Josh Hartman's going to the 1. All we have to do to take the lead is get in on the QB sneak. Come on, Pat Smith. That was one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen, but we get some good blocks, and it was a long drive, but it ended up paying off. I think we have a real chance in this matchup, and we'll see how our defense does because that is always going to be the hardest part. They're definitely our weakest unit, but they're still able to hold the Wolverines, and on 3rd and 3, they just go with the halfback draw, which we're all over. This is the perfect start against Michigan, but we need to have another solid drive like our last one, and Josh Hartman's going to get like 4 or 5. I think we've cracked the code though with how we have to play versus these teams. We can't get off to a slow start, and that juke was supposed to go to the left, so that's disappointing to see, but they boxed up the halfback screen, and for some reason I thought we'd be able to scramble with our quarterback for the first instead, but we couldn't, and that was one of the worst punts the school has ever seen in its history. 2nd and 7 though for Michigan, and we just stick with the drag where their quarterback is trying to run on us. I cannot believe that he's going for this much, but he goes down, and if Maurice Thomas is that quick, we're going to have a hard time stopping him. Joe Sanders is going to take this handoff and throw our defender off of him, making me question our ability to actually bring a guy down, and this pass is completely boxed up. They throw it away. So our defense is already doing a lot better than I thought we would, and they're just trying to run. Again, it's over and over. We know exactly what's coming here, and we should pick off this halfback screen, but Kyle Stevens dropped it. So unfortunately, they're still going to get a field goal, and I'd like to see if we could beat their defense deep. This is zone, so we're going to go underneath, but it's inaccurate, and they're going to get the turnover. Pat Smith was already 4 for 4. There's no reason that he should have missed that pass, but let's just hope that's his last pick because he threw 4 of them last year versus Michigan. And on 2nd and 9, they go with the pass where Sanders is going to miss Singleton, and by the time I clicked on to make a pick, it was too late. I don't love the fact that now we find ourselves down by 3, but Zach Wilson can make up for it, and I've learned that I should have never started that last drive by passing the football. It didn't work for us, and on this next run, Hartman just got tripped up by his lineman, but we should still convert on 3rd and inches, which we do. It was a close call though, and we should probably start passing where Dante Moss is going to reel this one in, and his experience has helped us big time in this game so far, while Zach Wilson's been kind of quiet, but we're going to try our best to get him going with the wide receiver screen. And now it's 3rd down where if we don't pick this up, I didn't want to give it back to Michigan, at least without much time left, so we ran it down to about 33 seconds left, and that's going to be a fumble. Come on guys, we got to pick that up. Meyer actually did instead, going scrambling to the 35, and now they could actually try to go for a field goal. Thomas is scrambling. We are going to hit him down, but we clearly need to put on the settings that we did in the last game versus Western. And with that in mind, I'm hoping that we have a lot more success when it comes to stopping the Wolverines, because there's zero reason that they should get any points before the half. And I'm trying to get in with Joel, but they got the deep shot off, and please tell me they're not going to burn us here. I am impressed with JUCO cornerback Michael Hill right now, because I thought we were in trouble there. Thomas is going to avoid taking the sack, and watch how he just moved around in the pocket on that last play to do that. It is ridiculous, but there was no way that this ball would reach the end zone, so maybe Jamal Davis could return it, and he can't. That was a weird first half from both teams, but if anything, I like the fact that we can be competitive with a team like Michigan now, and no way they're going to take this first one to the house. Joe Sanders must not be that quick, because it was almost really bad. They have pitched it, but it's a fumble, and they picked it up. The ball's been loose so many times, but we just can't seem to come away with it. And on 3rd and 2, it is play action where we should have gotten the sack, but they got the throw out, and that was a great tackle. But now they're going for it on 4th and 2, where I think we're going to get over there, and I cannot believe that they gave it to them. Our defense deserved to get them off of the field. Now they're going with the deep shot. This is our chance to get the pick, and we do. David Conception just set a school record, and that's insane that 6 is the most in school history with this team. But we've had a lot of defensive backs that were JUCOs, and Pat Smith isn't going anywhere. The run-pass strategy is not working versus Michigan. We're going to need something else. And Zach Wilson just dropped what could have been a touchdown. If he came away with that ball, I would have bet he got to the house, because there's no way that guy was going to catch him. But we finally had a great punt, and I think they're going to try and pick it up, but Jamal Davis beat him to it, so their drive's going to start here, and Thomas is getting hit by everybody. I literally have every single setting set up to stop this guy, and he still manages to scramble around on our defense. This dump off is getting locked up, and I love senior Drew Flynn. We just have to keep things up though, and I went with man-to-man coverage, which I wasn't sure would work, but Jordan Williams gets the interception, and that is a massive turnover. The freshman corner has been amazing for us this year, and I'm so excited for the future, because he's going to be with us for a long time. On 2nd and 5, Hartman's going to get the first, and surely we can take our lead back on this drive. I'm really surprised with how well our defense has been doing against Michigan, but those are some good blocks. Josh Hartman gets in, and we can actually stay undefeated. Part of me thought that we'd come into this game and lose by like 28, but now I realize we have a chance in the playoffs. So not only are we shooting for a MAC championship, but we're also going to go for a national one, and this is a good play for Michigan to get 15. Last season, we threw 4 interceptions versus them. This year, we forced 3, and that type of turnaround is absolutely crazy. Thomas, again, trying to run on us, but we know how to stop it, and he can't throw the ball. I trust our defense on 3rd and 7, and there's no way that they just threw that halfback screen straight into freshman's hands. Green is going to go all the way. I lost my voice for a second, because we're literally going to beat Michigan. I know that we did this 2 seasons ago in this series, but we're not playing against their backup quarterback, halfback, wide receiver, everybody. Instead, this is a team that wants to make the playoffs on us, and if they lose, they're probably not going to, but they're just not playing well, especially taking penalties like that. And they beat Ohio State, who was ranked number 3, so I feel like we could really take down any school if we come out and play our best. It's really been our defense that stepped up and made the difference though, because offensively, we've had our struggles too, like that interception, and on 2nd and 4, they're just going to hand it off up the middle on Deion Hughes, but Joe Sanders didn't get enough, and we shoot the gap. This is the best game of David Conception's career, and if we get a stop here, we could end the game, but they just went with the run, and I would have never guessed that they would do that instead of passing, but we could have expected this. There's only 3 minutes left though, so they're going to run out of time if they don't score quick, and I feel like our coverage has locked up their receivers so well, which is why their quarterback just continues to run over us. I'm trying to put contains out there, but they don't seem to be working. All they're going to have open is a flat, and Thomas still runs up the middle, but we force the fumble. Finally, we're going to recover it too. It was about time. I've been laying hit sticks into this man all day, and the fact that we forced 5 turnovers on the Wolverines is absurd. This is a team that could actually win this program their first playoff game, and we're also going to get a first-round bye if we can win the MAC championship. It's not going to be a given since it's against Ball State, and they had a hard matchup versus us to start the year, but Pat Smith just juked out those defenders, and if he had a couple more blocks, he probably would have been gone, but it's all good because we can take 3 knees and leave our home stadium with one of the biggest wins ever. Ever since we renovated it, we've still yet to lose here, and when you look at our offensive stats, they were really rough besides Josh Hartman's, but defensively, Drew Flynn went off with 10 tackles, and then interceptions-wise, all of these players each had one of them. Unfortunately, though, we did just get locked out of Luke Anderson, and I don't have any coach points put in the locksmith, so I doubt we'll get him, but I really don't care because we're the #1 team, and if we play well, we're about to win our first MAC championship, which actually means something since we're still the 5th best conference. Also, as the season's gone on, some of our players have increased in overall because they've been playing better, so I had to go through and update our entire database, where most of the overall jumps came from older players, and let's dive into our biggest postseason ever. This is where we really need to step things up, because you can't be fooled by Ball State's 68 98 overall, because it doesn't mean as much as you think. What matters in Dynasty is your record and momentum. That carries a lot of value. And look at this start from Zach Wilson. He is going to get us off to the races. He is not going to be caught, and that is going to be the best start possible. We have finally made it to the MAC championship, and we know that this matchup was a shootout the last time, so it's probably going to be close. But I feel like we have definitely improved more as a team, and that RPO is such a good play. We're only a minute into the game so far, and Anthony Hunt is a name that we should be familiar with. And there's a reason I'm keeping such a close eye on him, but he didn't do anything on this play, and this should have been picked. Kyle Stevens did an amazing job, but he wasn't able to hang on to it. And this is a huge 3rd and 8 where they just have some hitch routes out there. We are all over all 3 of them, but they're going to get that route bounce, and we cannot get back to Baker. When it comes to generating pressure, I'm not sure where our defensive line is. Sometimes they're going to score a touchdown, but they couldn't put away their extra point, and Zach Wilson has an opportunity to get another kickoff return. Can he go back to back? Maybe not, but he's still been insane for a freshman. And on 2nd and 3, we're just going to go with the option where a pitch to Dante Moss should get him into space, and I'm expecting him to outrun both of these players, but he couldn't quite get around both of them. And now we're going to take this handoff with Pat Smith for a lot of yardage. He sheds that tackle, and he is still going all the way to the 15-yard line. This offense is so much fun whenever you play against some bad defenses, and Jeff Shelby caught the ball. I'm sure he's just as shocked as we are, and when it comes to putting points up on the board so far, we have had 0 issues, but we'll see how we do defensively. This is going to be a pass, and Drew Flynn cannot cover it all. 3rd and 4 now. Halfback angle route. We are all over, but they didn't give us the animation, and I was spamming triangle, so I don't know what else I could have possibly done there, but I'm sure we'll be fine. On 2nd down, I'm not even sticking with the running back. We're getting in pressure. We force the ball loose, and we get it. Wow, I cannot believe how well our team has come out playing against Ball State. I thought it might be close, but we could be off to the races again. Smith is going to get a ton of yardage here, and we're going to waste no time, hopefully going up 21-6 on them, with Josh Hartman just needing 2 more yards, and you're not going to stop all 266 pounds of him. To be completely fair, we did just beat Michigan, so this feels like nothing compared to facing them, and nobody's over there on their running back, but I'm not going to sweat it because we forced a fumble when nobody stuck with him, and maybe we should start doing it still. I've been surprised at how little they've run the ball. It's been a lot of passes, and our man coverage looks great here, but it cannot stick forever. So that's where Joel Johnson should be getting a sack or something. Everything again boxed, and that throw is off the marks. Now we're going to switch it up to zone just to make sure they continue to guess. I was going to stick with that route, and this is going straight to Kyle Stevens where he actually catches it. We did exactly what we needed to defensively. Pat Smith is going to make that one player miss, and then the other guys, well, that was a 6-spin move. Can we get the block on 53? No, we can't. I hate when guys are in the area, but they don't block, and our rushing attack has been lethal on the ground against them. It's only when Pat Smith keeps it, though, who probably wishes he was still in the Heisman race, and it's crazy how fast he fell out of it because nothing about his play style has changed. We need Dante Moss to get the first down, though, and I don't think it'll hurt us to go for it in this situation, as we're just going to pitch it, and Stevenson is going to hopefully make it. That was a close call. For whatever reason, I didn't go to the outer side with him. I thought we could cut up inside, and Pat Smith's going to get like 6, so I'm not sure the Cardinals defense knows what to do to stop us, but in my opinion, that's perfect because we're just going to keep flying down the field, and they've made it 4th and 3. We're not in field goal range, so we got to go for it, and we had the slant open underneath, but then Williams jumped up to pick it, and I should have thrown it a lot sooner. I hope my stupidity hasn't given Ball State life. I feel like our defense is way too good for that, and I've been shocked at how little they're handing off the ball. All they want to do is pass on us, and I can't blame them because they're down by 15, but that's what we're best at stopping, and we couldn't do anything there. All of our defenders just froze up for whatever reason, and this is floated over us, but it's not going to work for Matt Ferguson, and we send a blitz in at him, which is something that we have not done that much this season. We try to keep things pretty safe, and they're going to have a touchdown. We can't expect David Conception to guard both of them, but maybe Zach Wilson can have another kickoff return in his arsenal. This one goes to the 40, and I'm hoping that we can take a 2-possession lead to end the first half. That would be ideal, but Pat Smith is off to the races, and he is gone. Our quarterback already has like 150 rushing yards, but I always sim the kickoffs, and that's the first one that's been returned for a touchdown. 7 seasons, and that's never happened, but Anthony Hutt was able to pull it off, and look at this. Zach Wilson needs a couple of good blocks, and he'll be gone. I'm not sure it matters what defenses do. This is just going to be a shootout all the way to the end, and we are bombing them over the top for the first time, where I think it's a little far for a quarterback sneak, but we wanted to run down some clock before doing it again, and that's another touchdown run for our quarterback. 35-20 in the first half, and I guess I can't sim anything. I will step in to kick it off, but normally they just result in touchbacks like this. Our defense better not give up anything anything big in the 29 seconds that they're about to have the ball for. And on 2nd and 3, I did send 5 players at Matt Ferguson, but he still had enough time to get the ball out. And instead of picking the ball up, David Conception just froze and let them make the catch. It's very frustrating, but there's only so much time left in the half. Like, they're going to do something on us anyway. Come on, there's a sack. And it's about time that Joel Johnson does something. We've been waiting all year for it. There's no way that they score on this final play. So we're going to have a 15-point lead. And I could have sworn that they started the game with the ball, but I guess not. There's already been so many possessions in this one that I'm just confused, and I couldn't stick with everybody. Baker is going to get them a first. But outside of Chris Baker, they don't have many receivers doing much for them, and it's taken them a while to realize that they can actually have success running. Hopefully they go away from it though, and that's what they did here, where Matt Ferguson has to be terrified of our defensive line. And I'm sending 4 in his direction on this play, but I'm actually going to go into coverage with Joel Johnson, so all that's open is that drag. And I don't know why they're punting it back to us like they're actually able to stop our offense. They've literally had 0 success in doing so, and Pat Smith gets another 5. But what I want to see is Zach Wilson in space again with the wide receiver screen, and he did catch this one, but it really wasn't that impressive. Josh Hartman takes this handoff, and he's going to get to the outside. That's a beautiful cut from him, and these defenders are slow. That's simply the reality of the situation if we're able to run this much against their defense like this. And I'm trying to put this MAC championship away in the 3rd quarter so we can get prepared for the playoffs and stay healthy, because the last thing we want to do is have somebody get injured right before we play against a really good team, and that's a touchdown. Josh Hartman just decided he wasn't going down, and with 1 stop, Ball State's going to pretty much be out of it. Here on 1st and 10, I only sent 3, so they're going to have a lot of time, and that's going to be an issue. I won't do it again. This time we're going to put 5 in at Matt Ferguson, but he still gets it out, and that was almost picked. I think putting a lot of pressure on the quarterback makes them make some worse reads like that one, so maybe I shouldn't be so worried about our coverage being bad and I couldn't get back to it. What's crazy is we know that they're probably not going to run, so that just allows us to set up good pass D, and they are at such a disadvantage at trying to score on us whenever we do something like that. This is a pretty big 3rd and 13 where they just had somebody open underneath, and Phillips is not going to reach the marker, so we'll see what they do to start the 4th quarter. And I'd say this is game if we're able to get a stop. We have all of those zones covering over there, but where'd they go? Somebody got pulled away into an area they shouldn't have been in, and Drew Flynn is all over that one, but we aren't having any luck getting a user pick. And on 2nd and 10, Ferguson throws it out of bounds. 3rd and 10 now, where they just handed it off for the first time in a while, and this is another opportunity to get them off the field, but I would have never guessed that. It's pretty smart to keep going back to the run, but we're still up by 3 possessions, and they're just going to get that out in time. So I would have been upset if that worked for them, because we were all over Matt Ferguson, and that's going to be dropped. Why can't the senior get a nice pick? I don't know, but the game won't let it happen, and on 3rd and 10, they just went back to the same thing. Alright, surely this is the 4th and 13 where we actually get them off of the field, and we do. So now our focus will just be running out the rest of the clock, and I should probably put in our backups to do that at this point in the game. I don't want Pat Smith to get injured on a play like that, and we are really going into the playoffs undefeated. This is insane. I never imagined that this team could have this good of a year, but getting USC's offensive coordinator really changed everything for us. And on 3rd and 5, we're just going to let Ernie Hicks run for the first down, where Ball State's decided that they're not going to take time out, so it's pretty much over. That was a great juke move from him though, and I'm just going to go down. There's no reason to rub it into them, and Grand Rapids is finally MAC champions, where I'm not sure how much longer we're going to be a part of the conference, because I want to make sure that we're still playing a lot of competitive games. So if we win it back to back next year, we're going to upgrade to a bigger one. We always knew that Pat Smith was going to take this program to the next level though, rushing for almost 200 total yards. And there's another look at our trophy. He also jumped up into the Heisman race out of nowhere, winning it all. So I was not expecting that when I advanced the week, but he wasn't the only player to take an award home, as there's also Zach Wilson. It wasn't for how he did in receiving, but kick returning, winning the Jet with his 4 total touchdowns. And believe it or not, this season Pat Smith actually passed for less yards than last year, but his 14 rushing touchdowns and 939 yards must have won in the Heisman, and Josh Hartman just had a crazy freshman season. As for receiving, it was really rough across the board besides with Zach Wilson, and like always, Drew Flynn led the team in tackles, but when it came to sacks, Joel Johnson was disappointing with only 9, and interceptions-wise, Jordan Williams and Grant Sanders had the most. With potentially only 1 game left in his career, Joel Johnson only has 47 sacks, so I don't think he's going to break Derek Thomas's record, but I don't care because we made the playoffs, and we'll be facing either USC or Kansas State, but I hope it's the Wildcats because they're 9 overalls worse, and I don't think it's going to happen because with 30 seconds left they're losing by 4, but maybe they'll be able to drive down the field on the Trojans, and that is going to be a fumble. That is it. We're going to have to take down USC, and they're a 90 overall team, plus we have to play in the Rose Bowl, so I'm not looking forward to this. Alright, starting with the ball, we're just going to hand this one off to Josh Hartman, and we should probably keep things on the ground like we did versus Michigan, so he's going to get more, but we have to pick up this 3rd and 4, and I'm not sure if we can get it out in time. We had Dante Moss, but their blitz caught me a little off guard, so they forced us to a 3-and-out. Not a good good start to the playoffs, but we can't sweat it. We are the #1 team in the country for a reason, and there we go. All we need is our defense to continue to play as well as it has all season, but I just missed that player. And we have got to be more careful with Drew Flynn if we're going to come out and beat the Trojans. That's a good hit, forcing John Wiley on second down to just hand this one off to his wide receiver who gets a few. And this is a great chance to get them off the field as well. 3rd and 5. No way any of these 4 verticals get open, and why is he like that? Who decided Will White was just going to run free? And now I feel like we need to get Wilson into some space, but they were not letting us complete that pass. Now we're handing it off to Hartman for 5, and we cannot afford to get stopped again. We have Dante Moss. He hangs on, but he fumbles the ball to the USC. Are you serious? I'm telling you, whenever you are the worser team in a matchup, the game just does stuff that doesn't make sense at all. And not only do we have to outplay USC, but we have to outplay the sliders and see if we can make some tackles. As long as they only get a field goal out of this, it's not going to be that bad, and I think we held them with that tackle, making it 4th and inches, but they don't care. They're going for it, and I don't know what they're going to take, but I think we're just going to swat it down. That is massive, and they clearly do not respect us if they're going for it there, but that's all good. We are going to make them respect us by the end of this game by running it a ton, and to be honest, nothing I've seen from their offense so far worries me, but their defense is all over us, and we had the corner route, but we weren't able to take it. Why is Stevenson running backwards right now? And let's just hope that they don't have the defense for this 3rd and 2 where Pat Smith keeps it, and that is a nice run. The pressure is definitely very high in this game for our team to perform well, because all eyes are on us. Nobody thinks that we deserve the #1 spot in the country, and we have to prove that we do. This is a MAC school that can compete with any program, but that drop in the rain almost led to a pick, and anytime I try to pass the ball, I'm reminded why we should just keep it on the ground, because Pat Smith can get big gains like this one here, and then on 3rd and 2, I'm probably just going to step up in the pocket and scramble for the first, which worked wonders. It's a QB draw, but it's not designed into the game, so they can't cheat and stop it knowing we're going to do it. And why is Pat Smith holding his chest? We might be rolling with senior Brian Johnson in this playoff matchup, and it just popped up saying he had a dislocated shoulder out for 2 quarters. We have to have our Heisman winning quarterback, and I guess this is why we gave Brian Johnson money to stay here. That definitely worries me a lot, and their quarterback takes the sack, so it is on our defense to step up, and I could not stick with that route. They noticed it, and I hope Hudson is not that quick. Come on, David Conception, make sure you knock him out of bounds here. And I don't know what happened to the man that was supposed to be guarding him on that play, because Goodwin was set up to blitz, but it's all fine. We still ended up stopping them short, and this is our chance on 3rd and 3 to get them off of the field. Will our man coverage stick? I guess it will not. Okay, if there's anything to take away from that, we're going to go with zone in these clutch situations. And on 2nd and 12, I'm just going to try and guard this inside hitch route, so they're going to the left side of the field where they trucked one of our guys, but it's all good. It's now 3rd and 8. All I'm expecting them to get on this drive is a field goal, and that should have been intercepted. Our defense has really taken a lot of steps forward, but we're still going to be stuck relying on Brian Johnson for the next 2 quarters, and maybe we should be handing it off even though we have to score pretty quickly, which makes me nervous for this 3rd and 6 play call, but it has worked twice this year, the 2 times we've run it, and they have somebody all over it. I just wanted to make sure he didn't throw an interception, so we had to go with some short passes until he gets warmed up. At least this ball's bouncing pretty far, all the way to the 20, and I'm ready for our defense to step up when it matters the most. All we had to do was make sure that they ran down the clock, and that's what they did, with Joel Johnson getting a sack. So things should be going to the half. I even called a timeout just so we could potentially get the ball back, and they're going to throw it short. My timeout paid off because I trust Zach Wilson to have a good enough return to potentially get us in field goal range if we go to the left side of the field. He's going to get over there, and can we get close enough? I'm not sure about it. Might as well try the Hail Mary, though. We know that we have a fast wide receiver, and that ball was so off target, it's intercepted. Not a good throw from Brian Johnson, and I'm not excited to use him in the 3rd quarter. By the 4th, though, Pat Smith should be back, and our defense has done a fantastic job of holding things down until this play where they got a big run. I swear, I always end up jinxing us, but at least they're only getting 5, and I preferred things when they weren't having this much success offensively. John Wiley's going to take off. We can't keep up, and this is not good. Every time I try to click on it, gives me the worst angle in the world. So now they're down to the 2-yard line where we get in that gap, but they're still bound to score some points, and I see somebody open. That's almost a pick. For a split second, I thought David Conception had that ball, and we have to put together a drive where we keep things on the ground because we saw Brian Johnson have 2 inaccurate throws, but I trust his legs because I know that he does have some speed on him like that, and I just hope USC doesn't realize it as well, but there's somebody out there. Maybe mixing in this motion could throw off the Trojans defense. We're just going to have to drop back, throw it over the middle, and that's a beautiful throw. But to be honest, my heart sank when I saw the ball leave his hand like that. It could have been picked very easily, and Josh Hartman is getting to the outer edge while spinning inside to the 28. All we have to do is keep feeding him, but it's Ernie Hicks that's in, and that is not the time for him to make an appearance. Both of our corner routes were guarded there, so we had to check it down, and they really only work versus man-to-man. I trust the wide receiver screen though, and are you serious? There was a guy on the ground that tripped up Wilson, but I think it should have been a first down, and at least we have it back within a possession. It's a halfback screen. I was almost all over it. That would have been a pick six with Drew Flynn, and how is their running back still standing? He is still going. I feel like we're so close to making some very clutch plays, and by the time we get a stop, I think we're going to have Pat Smith back. They're just trying to scramble. Joel Johnson missed the sack there, but it's all good. We were still able to hold them, and I shot up that gap, but Wiley's going to break a tackle. So it's now 3rd and 4 where the halfback draw is going to gash us for a lot of yards. How is 47 still standing? There's only so much we can do about that. Hughes tried to stick with the drag, and John Wiley is running again, taking it into the 4th quarter. I can trust our defense to come up clutch, and Wiley tried to run on us, but how did he just zoom out of there? He looks so quick right now, and they just wanted them to get into the end zone there. I mean, he broke like 4 tackles and added 10 speed out of nowhere. Now we need a big kick return, but that didn't happen. And why is Brian Johnson on the field? I know he can hand it off. I know he can pitch it, which is going to help us here, but I miss Pat Smith. We need him back. And on 2nd and 6, we're going to try and go with a pass with Brian Johnson where he is going to hopefully just evade that pressure. He waits a long time, and that's floated up to Allen Brown where it is going to be almost picked. I knew their man coverage was not going to be fun to test, but at least Jeff Shelby came away with this ball, and he might be gone. Jeff Shelby actually making a play is something I would not have expected, but I think the wide receiver just put us back in this game, because once we get a stop, we're going to have Pat Smith back, and that is very good news. They're handing it off to Jones on this first play where they're getting a lot of yards, but Doug Jones hasn't touched the ball that much, and this read option's going for another first. All right, back-to-back big runs. I'm very excited to see them passing instead, but John Wiley just took off, and I have to stick with the drag, but there's just nobody that can guard him. I'm not even sure if changing these settings are going to do anything, because I've been putting quarterback spies out there. I've been pass committing, and he just keeps finding ways to get yards on our defense. David Concepcion couldn't make the tackle, and we're going to be in a lot of trouble if USC starts to run down the clock. We need to get them out of bounds here, but they just get the first, and how's he still up? Now they're starting to run down the clock, and I'm not happy. We had to play this without Pat Smith, and I feel like if we had him, we would have been just fine, but we have to start taking timeouts, and unless we force a turnover, they're about to go up by 2 possessions, so it almost feels like we've lost all hope, because in order to come back, we're going to have to recover an onside kick after scoring a touchdown. I just hope Pat Smith is finally out there. Wilson throws a guy off of him, and guess who's no longer on the injury report? It would have been at least nice if the game gave us the option to keep him out there, but they didn't even do that. Dante Moss didn't have that corner beat, and we're just going to start sending up some prayers. Maybe Zach Wilson can beat the coverage on this guy, and look at his speed. We're going to need some more like that. It is so nice to have a quarterback that can deliver dots right on the money, and we really haven't used him to do that all year, but right now he's starting to clutch up. It's almost like we could have gone back to Zach Wilson on every single play, but this halfback screen is not going to lead to a touchdown, so maybe we should have. Let's see if Josh Hartman can get in, and we're going to have some good luck with the onside kick. It all comes down to this, and at least we have to make sure it goes in bounds. Our freshman kicker runs up, and it is down on the ground, but they recovered it. To be honest, that was a really good attempt, and they're trying to pull a Miami, so we're going to run in and hit stick them one more time where they're not going to fumble. Now, if the computer was dumb, they might have passed here, but unfortunately in this situation, they're just going to hand it off to seal it, and we've been knocked out of the quarterfinals, but I'm happy with the effort we put up, especially for not having Pat Smith, and of course it's Michigan that makes the championship game. They're an 11 seed, and they don't even have their starting quarterback, but they've still found their way back to it, and our in-state rivals might win it all again. I cannot believe that we beat the eventual national champion, and that could have been us in this game, but instead it was them. After seeing that, I know that we could win it all next year, and there were a ton of records this season as I keep on going through them, and who would have thought that David Concepcion would have made our record books. As for players leaving, Allen Brown's not declaring early, but Eddie Anderson is, and we're losing guys like Joel Johnson, who is the best defensive player in school history. Then there's Dante Moss, who was really disappointing after scoring 7 touchdowns as a freshman, and Brian Johnson never really got a real chance. Jamal Davis wasn't the best. Adam Montgomery did well for us, and the list just never ends. Anthony Goodwin, David Concepcion, Drew Flynn, who obviously was one of the best linebackers ever, but at the end of the day, we're gonna have to say goodbye to a ton of talent, and it's saying that Eddie Anderson didn't even get drafted, so it makes me wonder if he's coming back for his senior year, and we actually have 1 point to put in the locksmith now, so for offseason recruiting, I want to go all in on Luke Anderson, which we can, so even though athlete Aaron Lacey would have been nice, it's gonna have to be Dan Williams and Luke Anderson that we target, because we had a defensive line to rebuild, and we got them both. Now, we are gonna have to deal with Aaron Lacey being at Michigan, but I'm very happy with the rest of this class and how it turned out, coming in as the 22nd best class in the country. Now, for athlete John Davis, I said I'd put him at quarterback, halfback. And I knew Jay Atkins would be a good halfback, going up to a 77. One thing we are going to need is more defensive tackles though, and thankfully Brad Jones actually goes up when he's moved there. So that's going to help out this room a ton. And if we move Matt Small over to free safety, he could start for us. But there's also the freshman over there that we just redshirted and I really wanted to develop. Let's just say that we have an overload of DBs and I don't know what to do with everyone, but I think I moved everybody around enough. It's time for training results. And it looks like Allen Brown's our best player, so we're going to have another really good tight end. And Pat Smith's throwing stats aren't getting much better, but that's all good. Josh Hartman picked up 1 speed and 3 acceleration, while Zach Wilson is now maxed out at 99. And it's important to note that we didn't lose either of our coordinators, so this upcoming season could be our last one in the MAC. And I'll see you all next week, where hopefully we're finally able to come away with our first championship ever.